Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming to your planning, to your city council. My name is Paul. I'm the mayor of Hood River. I'm going to call us to order for September 8th, 2025. First, we're going to turn off our cell phones. Then we're going to have a land acknowledgement from Councilor Paulson.
As we gather today, we respectfully acknowledge that the land on which the city of Hood River sits is the ancestral home of indigenous peoples. This includes the Nez Perce, Sumatilla, Warm Springs, Yakima, and other tribes who stewarded this land for generations. We recognize the lasting impact of colonialism and commit to working together for a more just and sustainable future.
Thank you, Grant. Now let's say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a number of folks signed up to speak to us from the audience. I'm going to start with someone who's on Zoom, but I'm going to give a little preamble to that. I found out on Wednesday that we, the city, made a mistake, and we are working with all due alacrity and diligence to rectify that mistake. There's rules about who may be on planning commission, and we have 2 realtors already on planning commission. And then in January, we appointed someone whose job title is Investment Services Manager at Urban Development Partners, which I didn't realize was a real estate thing. I knew that it was more like urban planning. I've worked with this individual on the budget committee, and planning commission is a hard job, and we have vacancies. And anyway, I understand from our experts that that was a mistake, and we are going to rectify that so that promptly we will no longer have 3 folks associated to an unpermitted extent with real estate. And Tracy Thomas Paul, who I think is online, helped bring that error to our attention. So I appreciate your input, Tracy, and welcome you to the room.
Thanks, Paul. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, you sound good.
Okay, well, and thanks for the preamble. So I'm still going to stick with my little speech. So here we go. My name's Tracy Thomas Paul, and I'm here to talk about the Planning Commission rules and transparency. So I sent an email on September 2nd about those concerns over the December 9th appointment of Tina McNerthney to the Planning Commission. I appreciate Tina's willingness to volunteer, her knowledge, but I reminded Abigail that Tina's appointment had increased the number of planning commissioners working for real estate companies to 3. Last year and throughout 2025, state and city law limited the number of planning commissioners in a single industry, including real estate, to 2 members, as you've said. Tonight's, I appreciate what you said, Paul, because tonight's packet says, quote, "It appears that the appointment results in a conflict with current membership rules." And I was wondering, why not just say we were informed about mistakes regarding the appointment, express regret, and describe the remedy? And I appreciate that you did that at the start of the meeting, because writing "it appears" makes it sound like there's uncertainty about the facts, and there wasn't any uncertainty. The state finalized new rules only in July 2025, and they removed the limit on single industry membership. So Tina can become a planning commissioner on or after January 1st, 2026, assuming the council moves and votes on her appointment, because the December appointment was done without a council motion or vote. Planning commission rules have tripped up the city before, and I think some simple fixes should help. So in 2020, 2 commissioners voted on a land use decision in November, although their terms expired on September 30th. The city had to be told about that mistake. The Planning Commission webpage only shows the month and year when each commissioner's term ends. A full term is 4 years. The municipal code states that, quote, "At its first meeting in October of each year, a chair and vice chair shall be elected." That language implies that the normal term runs from October 1st in the first year through September 30th in the 4th year. That's 48 months or 4 years and matches the code. Commissioners don't serve from October 1st of their first year through October 31st of their 4th. That would be 52 months, 4 months beyond a 4-year term. It's easy math and easy to fix. Simple changes to the Planning Commission member page would be: Include the terms start date and expiration date for each commissioner. Then, when commissioners are appointed at unusual times, it'll be clear to all when their term began and when it ends. Hold a first meeting for the Planning Commission in October, even if there's no land use to review, to vote on the chair and vice chair. List them on the page. And then add links to city and state relevant rules about planning commissions for clarity. Add resources for new members. That transparency matters, and it also helps clear up confusion. So let's just be transparent about all the things we do, transparent and correct about planning commissioner terms, qualification, and appointment processes. And I think this is an easy one to do. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, Tracy. Next, we have Scott Skelton, followed by Margot Blosser. Scott, there's a red ring, push the white dot and it will turn green like that. Yep, there you go.
I've handed out, or
And we have your
You
handout.
have it?
Thank you. Yes.
I'll just go over it really briefly. The first page is the declaration granting easements. And in the bottom of it, you'll see after number 3 that I need to have unimpeded access to maintain and install said pipe. The next page depicts the property that it affects. And there's a city water main to the left that I've identified. It's a 6-inch main. This system that I have was designed by Charlie Warren, who used to be our city engineer for a period of time. And the outlet for this system is a 12-inch pipe. That's a huge amount of water. And the reason for that size is to accommodate if we should have a water main burst. We're in a geological hazard area where this occurs. This property owner that I sold this to passed away and resold it. His widow resold it, and the current developer has been notified for years and years. I've spent thousands in attorney fees to try to make him aware and understand these easements and their importance. On the last page depicts the easement. Oh, excuse me, let me back up to the second page. There's a red line that depicts where the easement is. It's 5 feet. At the time I put this in, the easement or the setbacks were 8 feet and 10 feet. I put it at 5 feet, trying to maintain some working area on either side of it should it need to be replaced or repaired. It's subsequently the easement or the setbacks have been reduced to 5 feet in that area. The last picture depicts the approved set of plans. And for a little backup history, I'd gone to Kevin DeBerti years ago in this regard when the plans first became available to me, and mentioned to him that I see conflict there. The red circle is where my pipe is approximately at now. The contractor removed it, having been told not to, came in, had it surveyed, said I was inches beyond where it needed to be. I said, not a problem, I'll get a shovel and correct it. He said, oh, I've got a backhoe right here, a Traco. We can push it over, not a problem. I was gone for the day, came back, and the entire length of pipe, the entire easement was dug up and the pipe was stacked away. I have no authority to let anyone remove or damage this. This was required by the city. It was put in at their request, and I have no authority to say, remove it, do whatever you want with it. I have to protect it as far as my understanding is. So I think it's important that we have input in these situations, and that it doesn't have to be adhered to, but it would be really helpful if it was at least thought about. Now my situation is I have to litigate this. The pipe has been removed. I cannot warrant this person's work. I can't give a warranty on it. I can't. My neighbor here, by geography, her house is built right on this property line. Any disruption, any backup is going to affect her, not just the Corwin problem.
Thanks for bringing this to our attention. If you could wrap up, please, Scott.
I'm done.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Next, we have Margot Blosser, followed by Jamie Ebert.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Margot Blosser and I reside at 423 East Third Street in Hood River. I'm here tonight to speak to you about the city's development code review process. The City Council is trying to make the development code more efficient, but they are looking at efficiency through the wrong lens. It is best to resolve issues early in the planning stages of a development before construction begins. The smart developers know this and want to hear about issues, but some developers have no intention of finding solutions to problems. During the July City Council discussion about code review, it was stated that people were trying to throw a wrench into development plans. I assure you, this is not the case. Residents who live adjacent to these developments have legitimate concerns that need to be addressed. I live downslope from a development currently under construction. The owner-developer, Chris Corrin, is building a triplex to townhouse standards with only a building permit. My land use attorney advised me that developments requiring street improvements that cannot be built to the standards outlined in the TSP are discretionary and therefore require land use approval before a building permit is issued. I realize this is a very nuanced point, but it is important for a neighborhood where the majority of the roads cannot be improved to the standards of the TSP. This error in the approval of developments needs to be changed, but I see nothing in the proposed land use code revisions that will address this. Because my property is downslope of this development, the potential hazards is significant. My only option to protect my property from this development has been to use public records requests, which takes a lot of city staff time. The plans I received showed widening of East Eugene with paving extending to the edge of a 6-foot drop-off onto an unstable slope without a shoulder. Additionally, the plan showed the city's water line being in the wrong location. The design for connections to the water line would have required cutting into the unstable bank. I had to hire attorneys to write letters to the city and to Mr. Corrin to get these deficiencies changed. Again, a very laborious and expensive process for everyone. Mr. Corrin's contractor's license expired in 2014. He appears unconcerned with expediting the permitting process. Rather than simply renewing his license, Mr. Corrin engaged in a long discussion with the city that lasted for 6 months and resulted in 15 pages of emails. The permit was finally issued without Mr. Corrin having a contractor's license because he said he would live in one of the units, which is highly unlikely. The City Council is currently hearing only one side of the issue about developments. This will not result in an equitable solution for how developments get built. The code review process needs to include the citizens of Hood River who are impacted by these developments. Thank you for listening to my concerns.
Thank you, Margot. I don't know if it's our rule, but it is certainly our custom to not have applause from the audience. I would request that we not have applause from the audience. Next, we have Jamie Eppert, followed by Ben Lewitt.
It's really tall. Hi, everyone. Thanks for doing what you guys do. Super grateful. I am actually the owner of the home of the Corwin property. So my house and my 3 children's home is lined with the pipe that Mr. Skelton here is discussing. And the concern here is not just that, if it breaks and him putting it back to removing it and then putting it back together without a contractor's permit or license, there's a kind of a concern, you know, I'm concerned. Aside from that is I am a cancer survivor. I am in remission currently, and I am also in remission kind of autoimmune neuromuscular disease, which does not have a cure. And on this video, which I know I can't walk it around to you guys, but I will send it to somebody. And then you guys, if you have a look at it, there's 2 videos because it's 2 different days that Mr. Corrin is blasting huge amounts of cement dust on May 27th, 2025, around 2:15 p.m. And you can see in one of these videos here that it is blasting. Our windows are open. It's going right into my oldest child's bedroom. And so approaching him and asked that he said that they just didn't have the hose attachment. So, and then his worker said, we just had to get it done. So we just did it. And so the result is this, and the cement dust constitutes numerous materials, including calcium oxide, silicone oxide, aluminum I can go on. But the cement dust, and this is cited from National Library of Medicine, Center for Biotechnology Info. The cement dust constitutes cement causes pathogenous, can't say it, of various lung diseases, including chronic bronchitis, asthma, lung cancer, pneumonia, and tuberculosis. As a person with an incurable autoimmune neuromuscular disease, pneumonia is the most fatal to us. So when we're having 2 incidents by Mr. Corwin, who doesn't even have a license to be doing what he's doing, and this is a concern. And I'm here today because I did contact the city at the time, and he just said it was an accident. I'm here today because I personally, with my health and my concern for my children, as well as the neighbors all involved, 3 of which are here, too, I don't know what else to do, but this cannot continue. Our home, our dust on the other side of our home where we hang out is consistently covered in dust. So I don't know, it's negligence on following code, and I don't know what else to do about it, but I'm certainly not trying to miss their high school graduations because this guy is being negligent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Ben and Brian Robb.
I did.
We have your hand out, Ben, yes.
Mayor, councilors, thank you for your time and attention and for the work you do. I'm here to propose a resolution for institutional neutrality. Institutional neutrality is a principle that the city council would refrain from taking positions that are outside their mission, outside your mission. Institutional neutrality will keep your meetings focused on your business, not waste your time, and protect the civic nature of council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Brian.
Hello, City Council. I'm Brian Robb. I live at 922 Union Street in Hood River, been here for many years. Just a brief little notice, something I've noticed is you're aware of the 2nd and Cascade intersection, which I do believe the city has called a failed intersection. I come out of that frequently to go down to the river. So I come from like post office and make the left turn over the bridge. I've noticed recently that the fence there on the sidewalk is covered with banners advertising the various contractors. That affects the view to the right as you come out. And I know that's going to pass. They're going to clean that up. But the main suggestion I have is I think that first parking spot right there should be removed.
The one on 2nd or the one on Cascade, Brian?
The one on 2nd.
Thank you.
If you remove that yellow curb, it's going to be much easier to make a left turn. Because right now, you got to get halfway out in the intersection, then punch it to get that left turn. That's it.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks up.
That concludes the business from the audience. We'll move on. There's been a little bit of shifting around in order. I think next in order is going to be Katie from Visit Hood River. Is that right, Abigail?
That's. Yes, I'd like to move the recess for the renewal agenda until after the action reads.
Great. Okay. Urban renewal will be after the action items. I got it. Thank you. Katie. Thanks for your great work and for being with us.
Thank you. Yes, thanks for having me. Mayor Blackburn, City Council, all my friends at home. Comfortably at home. Everyone here. My name is Katie Cadlip. I'm the CEO of Visit Hood River and the Chamber of Commerce. I've lived in Hood River for 13 years and I do what I do because I love our community. And I have the honor of working with my fabulous team, which includes Amanda's mom. Jen, am I next sliding? Can I take over for a sec? Please do. Here, over here. Maybe.
Oh, it's really slow. Okay, and then I would just use the arrows to move.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. While our founding task is at Visit Hood River is to attract overnight visitors, everything we do points back to one central goal, which is to build and sustain the quality of life for residents and businesses who call Hood River home. Tourism is a major source of, of revenue for our community. This year in the 24-25 collection period, Visit Hood River collected 25% of $2.8 million. The city was able to retain $2.1 million. This split, 25-75%, is a state mandate. Our split is actually grandfathered. The city currently collects the majority of the tax. In other destinations, the split is opposite and it's a 70-30 split. So any new transient lodging tax we would impose would have a new split of 70% to the DMO, which is Visit Hood River Destination Marketing Organization, and 30% to the city. So this model that we have really benefits the city. Visitor spending across the county in 2024 was $98 million. Lodging, dining and food services, retail sales, arts, education, entertainment, recreation, transportation, and gas and food stores. I was asked to present a bit of a budget, so this fiscal year, we have budgeted $845,000 based on what the city is projecting. 25% of that makes up 83% of our budget. That TLT is the backbone of everything that we do, but we do collect chamber membership dues, which is 10% of our budget. We collect events and sponsorship dollars, and then we have some co-op marketing efforts that we do with our lodging properties. Expenditures are aligned with our community benefit. 52% goes to destination stewardship, marketing, and promotion. 37% is administration, and the rest is events, professional services, staff education, and contingency. Okay, done with numbers, Chris?
You say that like we didn't want and love the numbers, so just saying.
Our work falls into 5 core areas: community reinvestment, local business advocacy, DEI, destination marketing, and destination stewardship. We provide a community reinvestment grant program. It's a 50-50 matching program that we launched in 2022. Since then, we've had 19 recipients of the award. 3 this year: Hood River Pedal and Paddle, Wild Wind and Water, and Carrie Jewelry Jewelry Boutique. It's not enough to just get people to visit and stay overnight in Hood River. We want them to spend time and lots of money. Through programs and events like Locals Wednesday, Shop Local, First Friday, Downtown Halloween, and Hood River Holidays, to networking events like First Thursday After Hours, our focus is bringing our community together and helping businesses thrive. Jen, I really did practice. Next slide. We strive to be strong allies in our community. The Hood River Pride Celebration, hosted in collaboration with the Columbia Gorge Pride Alliance, the Ruins, Hood River Hotel, and many others, brings the community together in June to celebrate LGBTQ+ residents, visitors, and allies. The Winter Pride Fest, which we add in Mount Hood Meadows to that mix of partners, is a winter celebration that extends pride into the colder months and provides inclusive recreation opportunities for all ages. We're proud of our partnerships with Hood River's Latino community through events like Latino First Friday and promotion of Latino-owned businesses. We ensure diversity is celebrated in the way that we share Hood River with our guests. This year, and just recently, we launched 2 new accessibility partnerships. One is with MobiMats, and this is a pilot project, the first of its kind in agritourism. These mats, already popular on the coast and the beach, allow wheelchair users to access U-pick areas even when the ground is wet, muddy, or uneven. We'll be hosting media trips in October to Kiakawa Orchards to showcase the mats in action, highlighting how agritourism can be more inclusive. This effort is in partnership and funded by Experience Mount Hood in the Gorge, which is our local regional destination marketing organization, which is funded by Travel Oregon. The second partnership is Wheel the World. We're working with Wheel the World, which is a global accessibility platform that has mapped 14 organizations in our community for accessible travel. Together, we're encouraging people with disabilities to travel confidently and enjoy unforgettable experiences with their loved ones. All these partnerships are essential, helping us create meaningful, inclusive experiences while highlighting the incredible organizations that make Hood River so welcoming to everyone. Next one. Okay, so the meat and potatoes of what we do, destination marketing. Our campaigns all focus on inclusivity. You're Our People is our main campaign that we launched 2 years ago, and it just continues to stand the test of time. We really promote responsible travel. Bless you, Abigail. Responsible travel, we aim to spread visitors across the region and set accurate expectations so we don't compromise our values. This year, we also launched a new website in February. Thank you, Michelle. She put a ton of blood, sweat, and tears into this. It is fresh and it's vibrant, and it is designed to make planning your trip to Hood River easy and inspiring. We'll also be launching our seasonal campaigns for You're Our People. You live for connected community, you enjoy the view, you're up for adventure, you live for the moment. You're Our People. We are pushing during fall, winter, spring is when we tell people to come to Hood River. We back off telling people to come in the summer, and instead we tell them what they should be doing when they're already here. Mainly visiting responsibly, being respectful, being stewards of the land. This platform, or this strategy, has let us showcase the full richness of our community throughout the year. So through our destination marketing, in 24-25, 6,340 people came directly from seeing our ads, and 43,000 contributed to 43,000 visitor stays. We want to attract like-minded people and guide them toward visiting during off-peak seasons like fall, later fall, all of winter, early spring. We partner with Datify, a data analytics platform, to understand visitor behavior, which helps us make smarter data-driven decisions, from marketing and promotion to destination stewardship and ultimately infrastructure planning. And lastly, we are super excited to announce our River to the Mountain series, which is going to be a storytelling series showcasing businesses that were born and raised and growing in Hood River, all the way from the river to the mountain. Our first pilot, I guess, is Ellen and Fiona Wild with Wild Wind and Water. For those of you that don't know, Wild Wind and Water is an incredible nonprofit locally that provides water sports education and opportunities for youth and adults with a strong focus on water safety and water quality awareness. Every program that they provide, their goal is to provide equitable access to outdoor physical activities, promoting better health, emotional well-being, and a sense of community through shared experiences on the water. And then next up, we have Big Winds, which is another inspiring story highlighting Hood River's unique spirit and people driving our community. This whole series that we're doing is more than just sharing stories. We just want to invite everyone in Hood River, our guests and our residents, to really take a deeper, more connected dive into who we are as a community. And as this campaign moves up the valley towards the mountain, we'll showcase diverse businesses and organizations, weaving together the full story of our vibrant community. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Comments, questions for our colleague? Gladys.
Hi, Katie. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate all the work that you do, and I always enjoy your updates. Given that a couple of years ago, I think, in my opinion, we were going in a little different direction. So I appreciate the redirection, the intentional commitment to communicating and collaborating with community partners so that you're not doing this work alone. I also really appreciate your efforts in helping the city remind folks to visit this area in a responsible manner and being good stewards of the land that we're in, especially when it comes to visiting the after-hour establishments that we've heard a lot about today. I was curious, you presented a lot of data here. Do you know the number of visitors? So you presented the number of days that they were here, but do you have an estimate as to how many people visited Hood River?
I do, not off the top of my head, but
Okay.
I will send Abigail.
Okay.
Would you mind making that note? Thank you. But yeah, I can get that to you. So those numbers that I provided are directly from people who saw an ad and then booked.
Okay.
So that is not the total of people who have come, but just based on the ads they saw.
And the number of individuals that visited, is that through the Datafy app or is that through clicks that would
So
number of?
it's through the ads that then go through our website to our Book Direct link. So we kind of track their behavior through each touch point.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Those are all of my questions. If there's a way that council can continue supporting you, please let us know and we'd be happy to do so.
And same. Thank you.
Amanda.
Hi. I have a question kind of along the similar lines, but like I found it really interesting, like the breakdown of how much money visitors are spending in different, industries in Hood River. How do you know that? Like,
Sorry, that was from a Dean Runyon report that is produced annually. So and they run on January 1 to December 30. So that's where we collect that data. And it usually doesn't come out for a couple months because they take some time to scrub it. Yeah. So the latest numbers we have are through end of 24.
And do you know how they collect that data or?
Through, a lot of different ways to do it, but I can get all those details to you and send you the full report.
Yeah, because I just,
Which is
how do
hundreds
you
of
know
pages.
if it's a local or a visitor or whatever? So
Yeah.
I just find that really interesting.
Yeah. And we need to get coffee on the books.
Anna, and then Jen.
Thank you. I had a quick question similarly. We were provided with some information that there are approximately 16 hotels in the city
Mhm.
and 682 hotel rooms. And I'm just curious if, based on the information and the data that you have access to, can you tell us how often, what the occupancy rate of those are? Like, how often are we full and how does that fluctuate? And really what I want to know is, do we have enough hotel space here, or is it, in your opinion, something that the city needs more?
First of all, We get a report from Smith Travel Research every month that shows what our overall occupancy rate is, which I can send to you guys. We see occupancy rates decrease starting in late October now. So we do,
Let's go stop so that people can see your face.
oh, it's okay. But we do tend to be full from April to October. We could certainly use additional rooms during that time frame. What happens is people come to Hood River and shop and eat and throw away their garbage and maybe party, and then they go stay in the Dalles, or they stay across the river if they're unable to find a spot. So we aren't actually getting that revenue. The city is not. So there is definitely room for more hotel rooms and more hotel experiences.
Regarding the point about visitation, I know that, in the spring, there was kind of a lot of hubbub about, whether we were going to be seeing decreased visitation just because of the, let's just say, geopolitical nature of things in this country right now. And I was curious, in terms of especially demographic data, like one, is visitation down overall? Two, is visitation down, particularly from international visitation? I know just anecdotally from my own eye test, I feel like in the 15 years that I have lived here, I've never seen fewer British Columbian license plates than I have this summer. It appeared, just from my eye test, could be totally wrong, but I was like, doesn't seem like there are as many visitors from, British Columbia or other Canadian provinces. So if that data was available, I'd be, well, there you go. I will stop talking.
Wow.
Thank you for talking that long.
Responsive.
So yes, visitation is down. I created this slide for you. They have seen it, all over Oregon and Washington. Drastically down to the US.
If I could just sort of tag on, don't
Yeah.
leave this. Like just again, from the driver's seat, catbird seat eyeball, like, have we come back from COVID? Like, is it, gosh, we can't wait to get back to 2019. Like this shows that Canada is not back from COVID. What about the rest? I mean, how does it feel?
We are still, to Ben's point, the drop off this year is very political. We have in our board meeting last week, lodgers are still ahead of 2019. But there was such an influx in 21, 22 that they aren't growing at that exponential rate. And certainly there's, from a business, like downtown business standpoint, mixed reviews on timeframes that are usually busy. The growth rate of 21, 22 versus just the steady growth now, it kind of plateaued a little bit, but certainly no one is in dire straits, is what I'm being told.
I want to understand. The influx in 21, 22 means it bounced way back up because 2020 was in the cellar. But
Well,
was
even
21 above
21
19?
Yes.
That's what I want to
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Okay. So as opposed to our friends from Canada,
Yes.
the bars look very different overall. 21 was above 19, 22. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Nicely above.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Doug and then Grant.
Hi.
Happy to have served the city council for the last 2.5 years as the representative on city council to visit Hood River. So I get to interface with Katie a lot. We had a snafu on scheduling for the last board meeting, but I'll be at the next one.
He did not have a snafu. I did.
It's all good. But one thing I was curious about related to Ben's question, just as the data is coming in, just to kind of underscore the sort of importance of Canadian visitors. It seems like the traffic that's been had in terms of clicks and people that have been visiting has been a lot from Canada, Seattle, or other areas. Has there been a shift in where we're marketing in terms of,
Mhm.
expanding the outreach into different locales that hadn't been coming here before or something like that?
Definitely more stateside, looking at the Boise market a little bit more. We always capture Tri-Cities. We pulled back a lot of our Canadian messaging because it was disrespectful. And that was the messaging we were getting back on a statewide level of, because everyone wanted to do it the right way, but the timing hasn't been there. So, yeah.
Understood.
Mhm.
I have a question unrelated to this topic unless somebody has something still on topic.
You got the floor.
All right, thank you. So wrapping up the First Fridays sort of series, just kind of curious on any input you've had from the downtown business associations. Councilor Rivera and I earlier in the season were starting to collect data about what if we close the streets down more. That's still something we're considering as we gather more input.
Mhm.
Felt wrong to do it at the time just without more planning, but
Mhm.
still very much, part of our work plan, and just want to try to understand, are you going to be collecting feedback regarding First Fridays? Do you have a sense of how that was going for downtown businesses? We've certainly heard from some that it's a tremendous boom, and for others, they would like nothing for it to go away more, right? So,
So
how's
yeah,
that going?
I've been told both of those things in the same meeting.
Sure.
So I did have a follow-up with our downtown businesses after the meeting that we all had. And there were some priorities that I'm gonna send over to Abigail that our businesses would like to see addressed ahead of closing the streets, some simple things that I think we could do. I don't think that closing the streets is off the table, but the timing of when we do it, I think how we do it and what that programming looks like. I had a lot of comments on last Friday, of adding another day during the week that isn't necessarily Friday. So like if we looked at locals Wednesdays, and really bringing people together, the parking is already free, or was last year. But I think there's some other programming that we can do that I think that people would be open to. But I think it does just take a little bit of time planning it, looking at, and like, I think just the timing of the conversation, or the wounds were still open, we still had curbs being fixed. And so I think that just after we let the dust settle from summer and I think come back together, getting the the sidewalks power washed, that was huge. I feel like that was a great goodwill for our businesses that, they, in the meeting that I had talking about cleanup, like you guys are saying, there was outside one business, she found bullets outside her door one morning. They were not spent, if that's how you say it, but, or shot. But they were there, and it's just, there's certain things that I think that the businesses feel like is the priority right now, and closing the streets is not top of their list. So I don't think everyone is 100% opposed. I think just figuring out what makes the most sense for our businesses and for our residents.
Yeah, and I like what you said about, ideas such as different times during the week. Certainly this is something we talked about, having a lot more of a local flavor in terms of people being able to congregate downtown when they feel otherwise left out. So yeah, look forward to, continuing the conversation and continuing to collect feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks, everyone. All right. Oh, wait, you have a question. Shoot. You said you'd be nice.
When am I not? I got a lot more laughing than I was expecting. Just FYI for the public, I'm in the industry, so I'm going to say industry specific things to answer other counselors' general questions. The demand curve of the industry is very cyclical. It is up and down quite a bit. It drops off very quickly after Harvest Fest, basically straight off a cliff, and we hotels see very little demand business until about spring break. It starts to pick up again after that, and then it doesn't really pick up in full force until June. Correct me if I'm wrong at any point. So that answers one of the questions. One of the other questions from your Canada graph chart here in terms of volume of demand, and this is true industry-wide, from what I've seen on other things, is that the quantity of people visiting peaked in 1819 and never got back to that same quantity of people actually visiting, even post-COVID. So while rates increased post-COVID, the quantity, the number, the absolute number of people traveling and visiting is less than it was before. So yay, and expect it to continue. Forecasting wise, and this is more my question for you looking forward, is your board and you seeing or forecasting a more bifurcation in demand in the industry, a splitting or a hollowing out in the middle of the market? Because that's what I'm seeing in all of my publications, industry letters, and forecasting that I'm reading.
We haven't talked specifically about that in the forecasting, but now we will. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
I'm really curious about that. So do you also have the ability to track trends from, let's say, 2018, when Grant was just mentioning that, to now, as far as number of visitors that have come to Hood River? Not necessarily international, but total number of visitors?
I can see how far back I can go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, with our data.
I know over the decades, there's often been the question of, as the business cycle changes and recession and whatnot, maybe the source of our visitors changes. So instead of people flying from, let's say, Malaysia, they're going to drive out from Gresham. And so they're somewhat, we're a little bit buffered against the trends because we still get visitors, just not from as far away or something like that as budgets change. Does any comment on that, Katie?
We do see quite a bit of international visitors outside of Canada, because we have Portland International Airport, and this is a huge drive market for there. And we try to piggyback on the Travel Oregon promotion. So I know at the visitor center, we see a lot of people from all over the world. A lot of Australia, people from Australia. I'm trying to think, Germany, a lot of Germany folks this summer. So no, I can't, but I don't, like you say, we aren't Niagara Falls. We're not bringing people in droves from all over the country at the same time. So I can't,
Great.
I can't
Just
quite anything else out of it.
trying to pick your brain a little bit. Thank you.
Yeah.
Others for Katie? Thanks again for being here, and keep it up.
Thank you.
So we have no public hearings, Abigail, right? Now I have the consent agenda. Am I in order? Great. I would entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Moved by Stepina,
Second.
second by Paulson. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes. Nobody online. How nice. We all be here. Next action item is back to our Planning Commission appointment.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. Great. As you kind of gave a preface, and as Ms. Tomaschall explained, she found an error in our appointment process back in December. So you have a little bit of a summary in your packet, and I have 3 recommendations for you today.
I'm sorry, Abigail. Chief, I just noticed that 2 of our guests left like almost at the same moment. Could you walk outside? And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. So in your packet, I have 3 actions that I'm recommending for you today. The first is the immediate removal of Ms. McNerthy from the Planning Commission so that we can comply. She is aware of this and understands the situation. This is definitely, as Ms. Tomaschall said, not a reflection of her. And then the second is, as noted, the state law is changing January 1st. So I would recommend that you direct us staff to change the, our code to reflect that new state law. And my reason for that would simply be that this is, you know, we struggle to, at times, have folks on planning commission. And so I recommend that you keep a wide net, so you can, when you get applicants, you can get as wide a variety of applicants as you can. And then council, if you wish to limit the number of people from a particular industry or particular experience on a planning commission, you still have the opportunity to do that through your appointment process. So that would be my second recommendation, is that you direct us to bring you an ordinance that would reflect the new state law. And then at that point, you could reappoint Ms. McNerthy. You could do it now, but make her appointment effective on January 1st.
Great,
So.
thank you. Questions for staff on this point?
I just want to thank our city attorney, Dan Cairns, for working on this with us. And he is, of course, online if you have any legal or complicated questions.
Yes, Anna.
I do have a quick question,
Yeah.
maybe for you or for Dan. We are required to appoint members and fill vacancies, and we have 6 currently. It'll be back down to 5. If we were to consider appointing Tina back effective January 1st, are we required to have, like, at least try to fill the vacancy between this time and January 1st?
It's up to you. I don't think you have a requirement to try to fill it. I mean, certainly if someone wanted to, if you wish to fill it for 3 months, or you wish to not appoint Tina and you wish to bring somebody else on instead, you would have that option.
The phrase,
And if I'm not saying that
the
correctly.
phrase
It's mere-
troop,
merely a good idea.
the phrase troop surge comes to mind. Like, we had a vacancy on planning commission last week before any of this came to
Right,
light.
right. We had a person-
Because we don't, because it's not full. Now we're less full. So it would be great on general principles to use this opportunity to say, hey, planning commissioners, please. So
Yeah, I'm happy to report for the vacancy you have when Commissioner Mark Frost needed to relocate. That's why you currently have a vacancy. That we have at least 1 or 2 applicants for his position. So actually during city manager comments, I'll be asking for help with those interviews.
Actually, I think we have 3 people who have expressed an interest.
I think so, although I think one of them, if you're wishing to appoint immediately, also comes from the real estate industry.
So Anna, you're kind of driving this point. I'm going to ping pong back to you. So next week, we will have 2 vacancies on planning commission, but we have some on the hook, right? We're about to be back up to 6 for several months. So is the question, shall we appoint someone for like 3 months, or shall we, I want to understand, actually, Dan and Abigail, I realize now I don't quite understand. It seems like if we could take a path which would continue to recruit and appoint one of the batch we have, taking us to back up to 6, then advertise and appoint someone next month, then we'd be full and no room for our vacator, right? That would be a choice.
Or you could choose to appoint someone for the next couple months.
Or, yes, okay, so there's really
An
quite
interim appointment.
a lot of choices here. Okay, thank you. I get it a little bit more. I didn't realize we had a batch, imminent batch. Great, thank you. Let's see, where are we on that point? Anna, any final question based on my ramblings?
Final question,
Okay.
thank you.
Gladys.
Agree with all that, like what more clarity on next steps there. And it also just made me think of, it's already really hard to fill planning commission seats. So I don't know if that's in our annual work plan meeting that's coming up, or how are we changing or making some sort of change to our outreach strategy there? Understanding that at some point we will be full, but then folks will continue to fall off. Like, how do we have this pipeline of individuals are intentionally going to these meetings to learn because they are interested in becoming on the planning commission? And then it was brought up earlier in a comment from public testimony just around the onboarding and training for these new individuals, to ensure that they're aligned with our council goals and understand some of the tasks, and also just looking at diversifying some of these applicants beyond the technical field. So not sure if that would happen during our annual work plan where we're having these discussions, but it's already really challenging. What do we need to do that's different moving forward?
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I would note that we have, particularly when we added a communications engagement person, right? We have really been able to use Jackie and her skills to really advertise things more than we have in the past. And I would say our Civics 101, which of course in a couple of weeks will be starting again in Spanish. A big part of that is hoping that folks who have gone through that process, learned a little bit about city government, might be interested in joining a board in the future, planning commission or budget or the urban renewal advisory committee.
So I want to make a comment to that. And we have had individuals from those that have wanted to participate, but I think planning is the most complex of our committees. And so it would take a lot of onboarding for those individuals specifically to be able to understand some of the items that are being discussed.
Doug.
I'm just going to say that I'm in favor of the staff recommendation, 1, 2, and 3, remove Tina McNerthy from Planning Commission immediately, update the code so that it fits in with state law at the beginning of the year, and also reappoint her as part of what we're discussing today. I think that's only fair to Tina McNerthy, who's served on multiple committees throughout the city. It's a lot of dedication to time and effort and expertise that she's afforded, and I think it's in our best interest to retain her. So I would recommend that we do the reappointment for her at the beginning of the year.
You want to try that out as a motion, Doug, and see if others agree?
I will if others are done weighing in, but I just wanted to let everybody know where my head was. Sounds like this.
Anna?
I would like to weigh in, and this is not, from what Ms. McNerthy's reputation is stellar, and we're lucky to have her or anyone serve for us. But I think that it's really important that we give everybody an opportunity, and right now especially a chance to be on planning commission. We are going through this zoning code review and update, and this is an opportunity for people who are not just real estate professionals, but I think construction people that use the code, so property owners and contractors and other people with ideas and thoughts and perspectives. Like we need them to be weighing in right now. And so this is a great time for our citizens to be involved and throw your hat in the ring to be a planning commissioner. And while I think, we are really lucky to have the people who are serving currently, and this is not anything on Tina specifically, if we had qualified candidates that we could appoint to the 2 vacancies, I think that we would make a decision later of whether or not somebody should participate. I also think it's a good idea to be aligned with state law, of course, but I also think that there's a reason why, understanding that sometimes it's difficult to find people to fill the commission. It makes sense to have a diversity of backgrounds and expertise in that role, on that commission, and that's what we need to inform us. Like, for council needs a diverse planning commission to give us recommendations. And I think that maybe it's not a bad idea to have limits on the number of people that are, from a specific industry. I also am just throwing this out there, and it's not, everybody should have an opportunity to participate. And term limits is also something that might be considered, because in any role of, government, just because it's a good idea to have an opportunity to participate and to have fresh perspectives. So I really do appreciate staff's recommendation. And I think for sake of compliance, while we are disappointed to not have Ms. McNerthy on Planning Commission, I think it makes sense to have her removed so that we can comply. And then I think I'm not quite sure I want to update the municipal code yet. I think that, we still have an opportunity. We need to comply with state law. Dan, don't worry, I'm not saying we should not comply, but I don't know that, I think that the new state law that takes effect in 2026 says that we have the opportunity to remove that, but we don't have to. And I think maybe we should think about it a little bit more of, is it to the community's best interest to continue to have those limits? And then I think we should see who else wants to participate right now before we decide whether or not, we want to approve an interim 4-month commission member. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Anna. Gladys, and then Doug.
So what I think I'm hearing you say is that you agree with number one, right? That we take time to maybe look at some, what are the certain updates to the municipal code, and take a time to take a look at like our outreach activities between now and January. Is that what I think I'm hearing you say?
No, I'm saying that we should, well, 1 and 2, yes. Number 3 is instead of, looking at our outreach activities, I think that it's a good idea to just see who else out there, like open it up, like apply. We have 2 vacancies and we need to fill them. Beyond that, as you stated, I also noted that we had some recommendations for once people are on planning commission, what can we do to provide them a little bit more guidance, and what can we do to be more transparent? I thought those suggestions were good about, making it clear what the terms are, each commissioner's assigned term is, and some of these other suggestions, and that might be something to look into. But for the sake of this discussion, yeah, I think it's just a good idea for number 3 to be opened up to other applicants. And I would encourage people to participate and pay attention right now.
Doug, but first, we have a policy disagreement. Excellent. Go ahead.
I'm not sure without Dustin being present if you know the answer to this question, but how often have we had oh, okay. Dustin, maybe to you. Can you just speak to the difficulty of finding planning commissioners, vacancy rates that we've had over the last few years, just to give us a sense of that?
Thank you, Counselor. We've been 9 months without a full board right now. So our vacancy is since December we've had a vacant position. Just recently, we did get an eligible or 2 eligible applicants. One of as mentioned, the third is not eligible as it's a real estate professional. So we've been without a full complement for all of 2025 now.
Thank you. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I understand the points. I still think that I wouldn't vote for anything that would not be reappointing Tina McCarthy. She's been, like I said, invaluable. I don't want to discourage anybody that's spent so much time on so many committees in the city. It was our mistake. And would not be in favor of voting for anything today that's not reappointing her January 1. I think it's unfair.
Right.
Yeah, we got to talk about policy. I agree with Councilor Cavallari that if we're breaking it down into points, point number 1 and 2, regarding updating the code, council would still have discretion on who we appoint to planning commission. So we'd be able to, us or future council, will be able to match, fit whoever's on planning commission to the needs of the time or what have you. Regarding reappointment, to me, that would mean holding a space for an individual for a period of time where basically holding a spot for an individual, which as practice, Dan might be able to provide us whether that's legal or not. But as practice, I don't think we should be in the business of picking personalities or our favorites to fill these particular roles and we should be following general order and process. They're open positions, people can apply for them. Unfortunately, in this case, we didn't follow proper order in the past, but we can do a better job in the future. So that's the only thing.
Gladys.
So I think I'm hearing you say is we can keep it open between now and January, and if we don't have applicants, then move forward with Tina?
if we keep it open, if it's kept open, if we don't have applicants, if for whatever reason, we could move forward with whoever applies at that time. Just as we would follow regular order for any other open planning commission position.
Doug?
Appreciate your point that we still are able to review applications as they come in, and it's sometimes difficult because we don't have that many of them. Just the reality. Dustin, of the current terms, when's the next time there will be a vacancy because of a term expiration?
We have ongoing terms. October will be the next term.
I believe we had two that were going to, that would be up. One was Mr. Frost, who is already vacant, and then one other person whose term would be done in October, who could choose to reapply or.
October, 3 weeks from now,
Yes, and this is why I'll be asking.
not
about.
26.
And everybody right now is on the October cycle.
Yes.
Amanda?
I know how the URAC committee worked with, even if your term was over, you still had to apply, and then you were, it wasn't just like, if you want to stay, you stay. Is that the same with the planning commission? So regardless, we'll have another application process in October for a third seat.
I believe so, but I see that Dustin has appeared on the screen, so I'll let him confirm that.
That's correct. There's no automatic reappointment unless there's council action.
So how many terms expire in 3 weeks?
2 terms, one of them is a vacancy.
Okay, thank you. So one of the 2 is the vacancy.
Mhm.
Thank you.
As somebody who was formerly on planning commission, this is a really odd situation that we have created. I'm inclined to agree with Councilor Stepina. I think it's really unfortunate what has happened with Tina through no fault of her own. I agree it is very odd to be technically holding open a position for somebody, but we have created an odd situation here. And
2 odds makes it right.
not a math person, but sure. So yeah, I'm in favor of holding that spot for her. It has been extremely challenging to get people to join the commission, and I agree, like, I hate to alienate a person who is willing to serve in these positions. And just talking about long-term retention, like, I don't know if it's something, we do in terms of a stipend, like we have with, not maybe at the level of council, but like something like we have with council, if we keep running into these issues where, we get into a situation where we don't, struggle getting a quorum, and then that can cause all sorts of issues. So, I would be in favor of maybe looking into something like that. But yeah, I kind of feel that she should have the right to serve on that commission.
Doug?
Yeah, and just to underscore Ben's point, as also a former planning commissioner, it's a lot of work, and it's overwhelming, and it's intimidating work. I think anything in any committee that we serve in is, but it does require some expertise, and requires a great deal of time when you have something large that comes up, right? It's huge packets, quasi judicial hearings, et cetera, and it's not something that everybody wants to do. So I'll echo Ben's sentiments that this is an odd situation. I wouldn't think of it as anything other than that. It's our mistake. Someone that's already devoted so many hours and time, I'd hate for them to lose their seat for a year and a half, maybe more, throughout this. So, and based on the staff recommendation, I'm sure there's legality there. I'm sure the staff has talked with Tina McNerthy. She's willing to serve on boards in the interim as well. So it's just as a gesture of her good faith working with the city. She says, I don't want to sit around for 3 months. I'll do something else, which is what we're going to be talking about next. So I would hate to discourage that in this particular instance. I don't think this is a policy that we would see again or something that would come up again, I would hope. But yeah, it's a exception.
So a very good conversation and a lot of food for thought. I am going to try to narrow it down and make a decision. Ben?
Also, if I was doing the math right, which I'm very well may have been not, we have 2 people who are eligible applicants for what will be 2 open positions, not including Tina's open position, correct? Did I get that right?
So it's not 3, it's 2.
Come back. So it might be 3 applicants.
Right. I don't know if the person whose term is
Yeah.
ending, if if they've reapplied or not.
Yep, got it.
Amanda?
I assume this has been discussed, but I just want to make sure if we're holding the space for Tina that she definitely will come back in January, because I would hate to count on that, hold her space, and then in January still not have a commissioner or whatever they're called.
Yeah, thank you for that, Counselor. And yes, Dustin has spoken with her and she understands and has committed, is interested, I should say.
I would be interested in seeing if we have a majority in favor of a motion. Perhaps that could be the staff recommendation motion.
Do you want to do a count or do you want a motion?
Or
I want a motion.
do you perhaps want to break this into 3 items? I mean, the first one is, I mean, I had combined them into one motion, but if there's concern, we might break it.
Sure,
into
that's
2
a great
separate.
idea.
So the first one, you legally need to do, please.
All right, I'll make the first
You
one.
need to remove someone from the planning commission who has a real estate connection.
Okay, I propose that we remove Tina McNerthy from Tina McNerthy's membership from Planning Commission effective immediately.
Moved by Doug.
Second.
Second by Gladys. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're all here. Chair votes aye. Second?
If I may, Mayor.
Yes, please.
Okay, I propose that we update municipal code to reflect state law as amended by HB 3136, which will be effective January 1st, correct, Abigail?
Moved by Doug.
Second.
Second by Ben. Now, this is, I mean, the last one was really easy. This one is not as easy. Like, there was discussion about like the rules, the state rules are changing in January. Do we want to put a bunch of leg into this now or anyway? So I just point that out. We have a motion on the floor. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion
Nay.
passes.
Wait,
Oh,
you gotta slow
I'm
down.
sorry, Mr. Mayor, do we have a second?
Yes,
we did. Second
Mr.
by-
Mitchell was the
second by
second.
Ben. I was too fast and I'm sorry. Opposed? Anna Cavallari opposed.
Thank you. And Councilor Rivera, I'm not sure I saw your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
All right. So staff will bring forward language that reflects that, probably in the next,
Thank you.
sometime in the next couple weeks or next couple months.
And if I may make a third motion,
You're on a roll.
I propose that we reappoint Tina McNerthy to the Hood River Planning Commission beginning January 1st, 2026.
Moved by Doug.
Second.
Second by Ben. Discussion. Anna.
I just want to say that I think we're, I would again appeal to the idea of let's fill the vacancies. And if the vacancy is still there in January, or there are any vacancies, that's a good time to appoint someone then.
And another solution, not what the motion is, would be to appoint, and I don't know if Dan, we can do this, we could appoint someone for 3 months
Mhm.
so that they would serve until we have held the spot for Tina. And I understand the plus minus. I'm just saying that in fact complies with the laws of physics. So discussion.
Councilor Pilson.
Grant.
I agree with Cavallari. We should make policy around policy, not around individuals per se, but great. That's it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Can we do hands on the nays, please?
I know.
1, 2, 3 nays. Amanda's asking whether she has to vote. Yes.
Mayor, were you
Uh,
is that a hand raised on your part?
nope. Abstentions?
I'm sorry, I just really don't know. Like, I can see both ways and
Me too.
honestly, like, it's great, but to like have somebody wanting to come back and I want to honor that, but I also don't know if it's the right thing to just fill it and we have a vacancy or not fill it and hold it and keep it open on purpose. That's so struggling here.
That's the rub.
I'm going to call that an abstention. So by my count, we have 2 ayes, 3 nays, and 1 abstention. Am I correct? Did I do the math wrong on that?
And Mayor Count.
And I haven't voted yet?
I think Councillor Cavallari, did you have a comment? I saw your hand.
I did, the train has left the station.
Okay.
I mean, we are voting now, right? So chair votes aye, motion fails. So there's that. Does somebody else have a motion?
I have a question for Dustin, actually. We've had a vacancy for 9 months, you said, with Mr. Frost leaving. What efforts have been made to recruit? What are we doing to fill that vacancy? I mean, is it, we just haven't had the applications. Nobody's been interested, but are we advertising? Are we promoting this? Especially, again, during a time when we're doing something as critical as a code update.
Yeah, we have a constant online presence, and I believe we've had a couple social outreaches, as well as I think an appeal to council to outreach to your community, and we've outreached as well. Direct consumer outreach.
Thank you.
So I'm reflecting on the fact that as of 4 minutes ago, we now have 5 planning commissioners. Unless we take action tonight, tomorrow we'll have 5 planning commissioners, right? Again, complies with the laws of physics. Is that what we want to do? Maybe, but that's where we are now. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to approve anything right now. Anna?
I might take a stab at making a motion if it's okay. And that motion would be that we put forth our best effort to solicit applications for planning commission with terms beginning, if the term begins on October 1st. See if we can get as many qualified applicants as possible because, and if the person whose term is ending on October 1st or September, at the end of the month, is interested in applying, they should also apply. But I think that, that's a long motion, but you get the idea. I think we should just try to make an effort to get as many applicants as possible, and then, make a decision of who would be appointed to the planning commission once we have those applicants.
If I may, I think the motion is to redouble our efforts to recruit. Yeah?
Does that need to be a motion?
I think I
Well,
heard that direction.
So
I've
that
received
is
direction.
a motion. Do we have a second?
This is a weird add-on to the motion, but can we say, and if we still have a vacancy January 1st, we appoint Tina McNulty? Like, if she's still willing to do it? Like, I don't want to discourage her. I also hope she wouldn't take it personally that, I mean, it wasn't her fault at all, but this is a weird situation that we're in. And it's nothing, hopefully if we don't reappoint her tonight, I hope that she would still be willing to serve in the future.
We're not reappointing her
I don't-
tonight because that motion failed.
After what, sorry?
So we're not reappointing her tonight because that motion failed.
Right, okay. Well, then I hope that she's still willing to serve at this point.
I'm going to see if we can't make this be a motion. I don't think that together is a motion. Does somebody want to try a motion and see if we can get a second?
Can I ask a question before that?
Okay.
I would like to ask the staff, you made the recommendation to reappoint Tina. Why did you make that recommendation? Knowing that there's applicants now.
I think, and I will look to Dustin if he wants to weigh in, but just, this is, as said, a very odd situation. Here's a person who I believe is very qualified for the planning commission, has demonstrated an interest and been a good performer on the commission. So looking to keep her.
I just wanted the context.
Mhm.
Anna, by your own admission, that was a long motion. You want to try a motion and see if we can get a second?
Sure. I make a motion that we focus on trying to get as many applicants, qualified applicants as possible to apply for the planning commission vacancies. Yeah, that's it.
Moved by Anna. Do we have a second? I don't get to say this very often. Motion dies for want of a second.
All right. I will certainly take that as staff direction to staff, even if it was not a formal motion. So we
Well-
will work on recruitment.
Gladys?
Comment. So I mean, it goes back to what Amanda said. It sounds like Tina is still willing to serve on the planning commission beginning January 1st. So even if we do go out now and try and recruit and that we don't find someone, that she is still an applicant within that pool.
In all fairness to Tina and anyone else, and again, I don't know her personally, but what if she enjoys the commission or the advisory board that she's going to be appointed to? I mean, things change in 3 months. She might not be interested. I mean, she's said she could commit to coming back in 3 months, but I also think having an interim commissioner in that period that does not the amount of time somebody needs to get up to speed and contribute valuably. So I just, and not to diminish the value that she's added, I really do appreciate that anyone is willing to, participate. And I also know that she is qualified. So that's why, I think she's there in the first place. We're happy to have her. But I just think that this isn't about a person. This is about the policy.
Abigail?
Thank you, Mayor. If I may, I think maybe a next step would be, as I said, we are ready to do interviews for our vacant position. And if we have a couple, I'm looking for 1 or 2 counselors to participate in that. And then you and staff who do the interviews can come forward with a recommendation of how you want to fill both or however many vacancies we have. If you want to fill them or leave them, perhaps that small subgroup can do those interviews, have a deliberation, and come back to the full council with a recommendation.
Is that okay, everybody? Head nods.
Great.
Thank you.
So I was going to leave this for city manager comments, but I'll say it now. Looking for 1 or 2 counselors to join Dustin and maybe myself to interview the planning commissioner candidates.
Anna and Gladys were the first 2 hands I saw. Oh, excuse me.
Oh, question. Yep. Yeah.
I'm happy to help. The only exception is that these interviews would have to be scheduled on a Friday when I don't work.
So I think that we can figure out schedules, and I believe we usually do them on Zoom. So we hope they do not take very long. They're 20-30 minutes tops. And then time to deliberate.
So Anna and Gladys shall serve? Is that
correct?
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Then we'll work with the city recorder to get those scheduled for you. Thank
Great.
you.
I think we have completed this action.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
We will now have urban renewal. So I suspend this meeting and hand it over to Chair Stepina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to call to order the Hood River Urban Renewal Agency meeting of September 8th, 2025. Any additions or corrections, Will? Okay, is there any business from the audience? Has anybody signed up or wish to speak to the Urban Renewal Agency Board? No? Okay, so the first action that we have today is an approval of the consent agenda. That is just the approval of the meeting minutes from June 23rd, my daughter's birthday, 2025.
So moved. Happy birthday.
I'll second. Happy birthday.
I'll third it.
Okay, first from Grant, second from Gladys. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Consent agenda is passed. Regular business items. I believe that would be you, Will, for the Urban Renewal Advisory Committee appointment.
Well, okay. What can I do about that?
Speak louder or move to the side? Okay, sorry. We just got a note that folks on Zoom are having.
Thank you. So Will, just go stand at the, will you? Thank you. Sorry for the tech glitch there. Thanks for letting us know, whoever that was. Sorry for the interruption, Will.
Yeah, I wonder if there's something wrong with that mic, because should, speaking right into it, should be able to be heard. So, long story short, planning commission's loss, urban renewal advisories gain. We discussed with the chair of the advisory committee and concurred that Tina would be an excellent candidate to join the advisory committee. And so we have a recommendation to appoint her to a vacancy on the advisory committee for your consideration.
And Will, this is bypassing no procedures. This application was received, reviewed. So just making sure crystal clear here that we're not breaking any rules, in terms of how valid an application is for how long, et cetera, et cetera. Has staff considered that?
No, there's no caps on the number of, like, we don't have some of the same rules that the planning commission has. You don't even have to live in the city to be on, you just have to own property. So own property or be an elector in the city is your qualifications. We have been holding interviews when we've had multiple candidates. So we haven't interviewed Tina, but she's a known quantity to the advisory committee chair and to me, and her background is stellar. And we've had a long-standing vacancy. I can't remember the last time that we had filled out the entire advisory committee. It's probably not in my current tenure. So for that reason, we wholly recommend adding her to the group.
Thank you. Questions for Will? Anna?
I just think we need to do a better job of explaining how fun this stuff is. I am really, really grateful that Dina is willing to serve, and I think we'll be on, we'll be lucky to have her.
Anyone else? Okay, there is a suggested motion.
I move to appoint Tina McNerney to the Hood River Urban Renewal Advisory Committee.
I'll
First by
second.
Gladys, second by Anna. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes. We have no updates from Will, though we will hear from Will quite a bit in the city council meeting. Usually we don't have items from agency members, but I'll ask anyway. Anything specifically about urban renewal? Seeing nothing, I'll go ahead and adjourn the urban renewal urban renewal agency board meeting and return the gavel to Mayor Blackburn for city council.
Thanks, Doug. Moving on to discussion items, the GO bond campaign primer. Thanks, Will. I saw the pictures already. I'm excited about this.
Excellent. Mayor and City Council, give me just 1 minute to pull up presentation. Right, there we are. And those are pictures of some bond projects that were built in our built or proposed for our community. Where this project lands within your council work plan is as a critical project, and it's to place a bond measure on the November 2026 ballot to address city priorities. And those have been identified in your council work plan as transportation, housing, parks, and public safety. And so near-term actions are today, we're going to give a primer on just general bond, voter-approved general bond obligations at a 30,000 foot level. So no decisions made today. But what we do want to hear is questions, feedback, and we're going to bring back additional information on the 22nd. And we're also going to have a kind of a 101 on all of our existing plans and the amount of engagement and thought that have already gone into those to create potential projects. And so hopefully that will then fully prepare you for a special meeting on September 29th, where we'll get into the nitty-gritty of potential projects for bonding and start to narrow those down. So that just in the sense of where we are. So tonight, I'm going to start very wide and then start to narrow down. One, just go over general obligation bonds in general. Then talk about ways we can structure a bond campaign, because there are multiple. Then we're going to start to get local with how general obligation bonds and other voter approved levies have done in Hood River, and also what our tax burden is currently at compared to what it has been over time. Which then leads into possible funding amounts and what the taxpayer impacts would be at those borrowing amounts. And then lastly, get into different optional components of a bond campaign that we'll need to decide over the next several months. None of them required, but kind of the additional features that we could add. So first up, general obligation bonds at the highest level. So bonds are just another word for borrowing. It's another word for a loan. It's just like any other loan. And you can borrow money based on any source of revenue. So we have bonded off of utility revenues for utility projects. We've bonded off of construction excise tax revenues to buy 780 Rand Road. A general obligation bond is borrowing from a dedicated property tax levy that the voters approve. And it can only be used for public capital projects. So a kind of long-lived, at least a year, but typically much longer than that, capital projects, not programs, not operations. And what we will need to decide is how much we want to borrow and for how long. Now, you're going to hear a lot of talk about tax rates and how much everyone's taxes are going to go up. And that's just generally because that's what the easiest thing to understand. But actually the tax rate, and important to note, is just an estimate, and it changes over time. What's set is how much you're borrowing and how long you're going to pay it back over. And then as assessed value goes up, maybe faster or slower than you were expecting, you recalibrate the tax rate every year, often lowering the tax rate over time as the city grows. So that's really important. General obligation bonds are a really efficient way to invest in citywide community needs. And so you can think of for yourself, if you're going out and just taking out a personal loan, how expensive that is and what the interest rate is, like for a credit card. Then you think of what you would borrow for a car, and then for your house, that's a mortgage secured by your house. Each one of those has a risk level that goes down, and so your interest rate goes down. When we're borrowing on a community scale, it's the credit of the entire tax base. And so we're extremely creditworthy. We get a low interest rate. And there's tax advantages as well, where people who earn interest off of lending us money don't have to pay taxes on that interest. And so they'll lower to us at a lower rate as well. So for those reasons, we get lower borrowing costs when we kind of come together as a community to invest in the city. But it must be on a public project. So fire station, road, new park, all counts. One exception is affordable housing has been given an exception written into the Oregon Constitution that affordable housing is the one instance where we could borrow and then fund a project that's going to be lived in privately and owned privately. And then thinking about kind of when we're thinking about what we want to invest in, it's also important, and who's going to benefit from that investment, thinking about who is going to be paying the tax for this bond. So bonds are repaid by everyone who pays property taxes in the city. That is not local governments, that's not nonprofits, it's not anyone outside of the city. And so you'll want to think about if we were doing a sewer project or a water project, that would mean that even though maybe the pool is going to be using a lot of water, they wouldn't be paying any money towards a water project that we bonded for. And all the sewer accounts that we have outside of the city wouldn't be paying towards a sewer project if we bonded for a sewer project. And so that's just one consideration to really think about what's the Venn diagram between who benefits and who's paying when we're deciding later on projects. I should say each one of these topics is pretty discrete, so I'll stop for questions at each one. Okay. So now I'm going to go into some sample bond structures. One is doing multiple projects over multiple categories, basically an omnibus, improve the city in all types of ways. And an example of that is the city of Salem in 2022, I believe, bonded for $330 million for a wide range of projects. Labels are pretty small on there, but it's mostly streets and sidewalks, but they also did park upgrades, civic center upgrades, seismic upgrades. They even hit cybersecurity and affordable housing. Basically, every big, wide range of projects and investments all over the city in all different types of ways. The plus for going this route is you can find something that may resonate with any member of your electorate. Downside is you might find something that just hits a raw nerve for any member of your electorate. These can be more challenging to communicate the need, and also given in our smaller tax base in Hood River, it can be harder to generate enough bond proceeds to really do a large number of projects.
Will,
Mhm.
go ahead.
Can you help me understand that a little bit more? If we were to do a bond for multiple projects, multiple categories, you're talking about the challenges, like, help me understand that.
Oh, just in our small tax base can only support so much borrowing. So I'll get into like what possible bond proceeds at different tax rates are available. But you'll see that Salem had a 67-cent tax rate and it generated $330 million. So you can do a lot of projects with $330 million. That rate size to us going to be more about 10 million. Just doesn't go as far as it used to. Yep. So some of the engagement that Salem did, they had a bond steering committee. They also have bond oversight committee that's now operating, and they source ideas for these wide range of projects through their boards, commissions, existing plans, and then the bond steering committee, which was a subset of their city council, held public hearings as well. So that's one example of kind of an omnibus strategy. A refinement of that is to do multiple projects, but focus on a single category. So Bend is a good example of that. They focus just on transportation and nothing else. So things that improve safety, added amenities, multimodal amenities, and reduced congestion. And they had 27 projects that are going to last over 7 years to implement. And they sourced those from their transportation system plan, but also helped vet and refine, because the transportation system plan has a very long list of projects. So they vetted it through, they have a transportation advisory committee, which I believe is a standing committee, not pulled together just for this effort. And so their rate of 47 cents created $220 million of bond proceeds. But in this strategy, clear messaging. If you're in support of transportation projects, this is for you. But also, no matter where you live in the city, you may find something that that you'll benefit from directly.
Do you have I know that you're getting down to City of Hood River Fire Station on here. For the Salem bond and the Bend bond, do you have off the top of your head what what they passed by?
I don't. I can find that out for you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So, okay, now getting into single project, and clearest example of that is right here with our fire station was approved in 2008. It replaced a 1984 station that had also been built by voter approved general obligation bonds. And this one is like where some of those big cities kind of show how comprehensive and in depth you can go. This, I think, creates the real counterpoint of looked at what was maybe palatable to pass, and then hired the architects even after the election, and then built what we could build with the bond proceeds, and then turned out there was money left over, and we're able to get approval to add a fire apparatus and purchase that. But I understand that through that process, the city then kind of just started a discussion about saving ourselves, and this was really the genesis of our equipment replacement reserve fund to then save sustainably going forward for fire apparatus. So single project, viable given our small tax base and maybe the small amount of proceeds we'll be able to generate, and also very easy to communicate. Doesn't take much marketing communications, you know, understandable by the voters. So maybe the least heavy lift. Yeah,
Ben?
Counselor.
Do you know what the length, the repayment length was for the 1984 bond?
Yes. Oh, the 1984.
Yeah.
No, I just thought about that going into this. I wondered if that was just a renewal of prior existing levy, because it might have been that this picked up right when that retired.
Yeah, because I'm
Which is
assuming it
very
wasn't a 30-year one, because you don't right, you don't want you want your bond term to be less than the life of the actual, project.
Yeah, not only do you want to, you're required by law.
Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot bond for 30 years for something that's only gonna last 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I was curious about the length. So I was like, well,
Yeah.
can't be.
Well, it would have
30.
been perfectly timed, yeah, if we, but the fire station one, that was fully repaid in 2019 or 2020. Right. Any, before I move on, anything, just multiple projects, single project, multiple project, okay. So getting into how some bond elections and other voter approved levies have fared in Hood River. So I think statewide, Oregon cities have about a 58% approval rate over the past, I think, decade it was. So a little bit better than a coin flip. If you look at Hood River specifically, and the precincts in the city of Hood River, we tend to be generally a little bit more favorable to levies. So this is a list of some recent bond levies, but also operating levies. Operating levies are also a dedicated tax rate, but they can be used for operations, but they have to be renewed every 5 years. So generally, city voters have been about, I think it was, it's in the staff report, but roughly about 15% higher yes votes than county precincts for funding measures. There's several, or you can see the parks operating levy would have passed if it had just been city voters voting, but it failed overall. And education bonds have done generally better than public safety or parks. Everything on there except for our fire station. Well, actually, I don't know for sure for the fire station, but the Parks and Rec levy was the only brand new one. All those other bonds and levies, except for us and the public safety ones, all the education ones were renewals of expiring levies. So it's very easy to message that vote yes, your taxes won't change. So that's a very common tactic. So CGCC, the school district, I should say even the examples I went over before, Salem and Bend, were all renewals of expiring tax levies. So that's a very common strategy. We had that option in 2019, 2020 with the expiring of our fire bond, but we ended up not pursuing a replacement of the fire station at that time. So this would be our chance to restart, a new bond, and then 10, 20, 30 years in the future, be able to have that ability to renew and maybe have a easier path towards approval with that kind of no tax change language. And that's also a good consideration as we get into bond repayment terms, thinking about how often maybe as a city we want to recycle this ask. And locally, this shows what our tax burden as a rate per thousand has been going back to tax year 2009, which is as far back as records were posted online on the county's website. And we are actually at the lowest tax rate in that time period. So as prior levies have been paid down, as the tax base has grown, the rate needed to support voter-approved operating levies and bonds has decreased. And so we are currently 56 cents per thousand below the median tax rate over these last, I think it's 17 years. And we are $1.58 per thousand below what we were in 2011. So relative to other times, we are at a generally lower tax rate than we've been in the past.
Doug.
Will, do you know how this compares to other Oregon cities generally?
Yeah, I've looked at that, and it's there's no apples to apples comparison. Measures 5 and 50 just completely ruined any sort of ability to compare, because as we've become detached, as assessed values have become detached from market rate values, you like a dollar applied to a dollar per thousand in Hood River is not a dollar per thousand in Multnomah County. It's not a dollar per thousand in LeGrand. So it's very challenging to do that. I've even tried to look at just total property tax generated divided by the number of people who live in an area. And that's not even informative, because you look at like a Sherman and a Gillum are enormous amounts of property tax per capita. It's because it's the windmills. So you don't really know, is the money being generated off of everyone's tax, or is it because you have a data center or windmills? So it's very hard to compare county to county, city to city. So one of the easiest ways is just compare against yourself over time.
I think that this is a really extremely important point as we think forward towards communication for bond efforts. I hear from people all the time, why can't we have nice things, and I think it's also complicated, in that we've had a lot of people, myself included, that didn't grow up in Oregon. It's that live in town here, and we have a complicated tax system here with 5 and 50, and in other years where we've had inflation triple than what we see in the 3% increase. I think that's why you see operating levies and bonds, just for people to catch up. So I think this context is extremely helpful, being that Bend has X amount of percent, and so I just would call the importance to this to that effort.
Thank you. So now getting into potential bond proceeds. So I ran some very much back of the envelope. I hope nobody makes copies of this in next November 2026. So these numbers change all the time because it's all about interest rates, and interest rates change on a daily basis. But I took some recent interest rates and our current assessed value, and looked at what some potential bond proceeds could be, to give rough order of magnitude, at 25 cents all the way up to $1. And as a reminder, the fire station was estimated at 98 cents per thousand when it was put to voters. Bend, their transportation bond was at 47 cents. Salem's livability bond at 67 cents. CGCC's recent bond that just passed is at 27 cents. And so this gives you a sense of if we went, from 25 cents per thousand to $1 per thousand from borrowing for 10 years, over 30 years, we range from 2.9 million in bond proceeds all the way to 26.5 million. Obviously, as you get a higher levy, it's a bigger sell. It's more money coming out of people's pockets, and so you really have to convince folks that the cost benefit is in their favor. As you go out longer time periods, you have the consideration of, one, are you matching the useful life of what you're bonding for? That's by law. But also interest rates are higher as you go further out, and the amount that you pay in interest as in an absolute and proportionate amount of what you pay back is also much higher. And so to kind of illustrate that, if you see the 10-year at 2.9% and the 30-year at 6.6, 6.6 is not 3 times 2.9. And that's because you're spending so much more money on interest as you go out further. So that's very much a consideration as well.
What kind of interest rates are we talking about here?
We are talking about for 10-year, I pulled AA credit rating, which is what we are. 3.45% on a 10-year, 4.5% on a 20-year, 4.7% on a 30-year.
Okay.
Yeah. So much better than you or I would get at any mortgage lender.
You don't know what my credit's like.
Yeah. And so that's how much money could potentially be produced in bond proceeds from the borrowing, but what's the impact to what people pay? So most people pay their property tax through their mortgage company, and so it's comes out as a monthly cost. So I put the monthly figures here, and I randomly chose kind of an array of different property types, 2 different sized single family homes, an apartment building, and also a larger commercial building. Pulled their market values from the county assessor as well as their assessed values, which is what matters when you're looking at tax rate. And so that $2.9 million that you get for borrowing $0.25 per thousand over 10 years would cost that first home of about $9.50 a month. Well, I won't read all the numbers there right there, but that gives you a range of kind of what the actual fiscal impact to the taxpayers would be. Okay, sorry for the very, very busy slide. But everything we've talked about so far, I think of as the base model. If you're buying a car, now we're going to talk about the features, the additional upgrades you can add. All of these are optional. None of them are required. Salem and Bend did, I think, almost all of these. Fire Station, I don't think we did much of any of them. Both passed, both produced, excellent public product. So there is no right answer to the number of these that we're going to want to choose. There's costs and considerations, pluses and minuses. So I'm just going to hit them quickly. They're all detailed in the packet. One is doing some additional pre-bond engineering. A lot of our projects come from master plans where there's planning level cost estimates at a very high level. They were made many years ago, and they've been increased by an inflationary factor. And I think you as council have seen how many projects, when we actually go out to bid, don't bear any resemblance to their planning level cost estimate. So we can choose, if we choose like a more of a public works capital project, we can choose to invest on the front end on some additional preliminary engineering. Gives us tighter cost estimates, gives us the ability to identify potential obstacles or challenges early. But it also costs money, costs engineering money to do, potentially in the 6 figures, depending on the project that we might be looking at. And that's money that if the bond wasn't successful, we wouldn't get reimbursed. If the bond is successful, that engineering work, as much as would be capitalizable under accounting rules, we could actually reimburse ourselves for it, but we're taking that risk. Polling and communications helps, it's basically surveys, statistically valid surveys. Getting harder and harder to do as fewer people answer their cell phone and want to sort of give voluntary information. But it can really help gauge support, make sure we're not running into a big no with our ask, and can also be help refine and gauge our request. But also important to know this is a snapshot in time. It's not the election, and it can lead to bad conclusions. So met with the Parks District to just sort of get their take and lessons learned from them. And one thing they did was their polling came in very strong and favorable. And so they changed their ask and they made it a little bit higher of an ask. And then they were unsuccessful at the actual election. So that's sort of one thing, misreading the tea leaves is very much a concern with polling. As far as engagement, we could do a bond planning committee. So like I said, those used by Salem and Bend, but it does require significant staff time. And it's important to consider that if you're not recruiting people, the people who self-select are probably going to be the folks who already are supportive of your projects and probably not very representative of the general electorate. So something to consider. So that's pre-election. Post-election, we could have a bond oversight committee. Meet quarterly or yearly, review progress towards bond projects, review financial statements. To some extent, this is a little duplicative of our annual financial audit already. And it does require significant staff time to staff another meeting.
But with this one, it would specifically be about the outcomes of the bond or the progress of the bond, right? Like, so this report back to community members of here's how your tax dollars are being used.
To the oversight committee, which is public, and
Okay.
yes, yep. Yeah, so good. I think particularly good when you have like Bend has like a lot of projects that are going to be all on different timelines. So that's a good one. Or if you have like maybe affordable housing where there's just a lot of decision, or it can't really be so discreetly defined as a fire station built by 2028. Everyone knows, did you build the fire station or not? But some of the other aspects could be a little bit more opaque and maybe lend themselves more to a bond oversight committee. Next is determining if you want to add an allocation for administrative costs. If you want to do that, it has to be in the bond title that people vote on, and you have to set the amount that's allowable. So Metro set 5% for their affordable housing bond could be used to administer bond projects. So that's really helpful that, say we did do a huge affordable housing program. We've seen how much work Mariposa Village was. It takes just an enormous amount of staff time. And so this would be funding for that work. But the flip side is voters also don't generally like paying for administrative overhead. So push and pull. And then lastly, and this is separate, this is really different from all the other ones, is a political action committee, because that we have will not be city initiated. No one from the city will be participating in it in their official capacity. It has to be fully advocate, volunteer run. And so we would need to, staff members, counselors in their personal capacity, staff members in their personal capacity outside of work hours. And that gets a little gray with people who are salaried when they're on and off work. Can't have any involvement in the political action committee, and no city resources can be used in advocacy whatsoever. So if you had a city issued computer, no having any PAC activity on it. So that is sort of the requirement, but a PAC is also the only avenue to have positive support and to put out positive messages supporting a bond election. And so for that reason, they're a pretty common aspect, but they do require a lot of volunteer time. The chair of the Parks Board let me know that she was spending over 20 hours a week in the months leading up to the bond campaign, and it was also very taxing and challenging dealing with misinformation and social media and all that kind of stuff. So not to be taken lightly by any means. No. So again, all those totally optional.
You mentioned that for the fire station, none of these were acted upon, right?
I don't know if there's a political action committee.
Or any sort of polling. I guess I'm trying to understand if none of these were factored into that, then how were
I think
how were folks informed, engaged, from beginning to end?
Yeah, I don't know if for some of these, I don't know for sure. But I know like pre-engineering, there wasn't, because I talked to the architect and they said they weren't brought on until after the election. I think, this gets to thinking about what are we asking for, and does it immediately resonate, and is it immediately understandable by the electorate without any sort of cajoling? Yeah.
Will, I'm worried we're going to run out of time. Talk to me about how many slides are in this presentation remaining.
Last one coming up.
Thanks. Oh, thanks. Sorry, Amanda.
I guess I just have a question about political action committee versus information the city provides to voters. We're still going to give them information. How is that different from a political action committee? And if there was one, I was on the library one when that closed in whatever, 2008 or 9 or whatever, but yeah, I wasn't on a board. Anyway, do we ask for somebody to start a political action committee, or is it a grassroots kind of thing? How does that work?
Grassroots, or someone from the council, or whomever steps up to do it. Yeah, it can't be anything that the city gets involved with starting at all. But we will put out factual information. The Secretary of State has a service where you can send in materials to them and they'll review it for neutrality. But it's even sometimes putting in attractive colors can be no, that's advocacy. It has to be pretty boring. Yeah. Great. So yes, last slide. No decisions tonight other than feedback on what additional information you want. But I did want to telegraph to you when decisions should start to be getting made. So some early decisions is narrowing down bond projects. That's our September 29th. I apologize, not September 22nd. That's when we're going to bring you additional information. We're going to talk about also on the 22nd what engagement processes have already fed into some of our existing project lists. But if we're going to, engagement takes a long time. So if we're going to go heavy on that, we got to decide early. And then also pre-bond engineering, if any of the projects are going to need some of that, we should figure that out pretty soon, because we'll need to solicit engineers. There's public contracting for all of that, and we'll need to identify revenue sources. More medium-term decisions is finalizing that strategy between multiple projects, single project, determining if we want to do polling and outreach. And then the later ones are totally nailing down our projects, borrowing amount, the payment term, and determining if we want to include in the ballot title admin costs, a bond oversight committee, and then seeing if a PAC forms. I shouldn't have put that on as a council decision, but that's kind of where that comes together. Okay.
So important, Will, you give us a sense of what it would be like to eat these vegetables. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm going to take a break, call a break for a couple minutes, and we'll come back and hear about the proportionate share district.
Everybody.
Grant, can I get that sheet back from you? Thank you. All right, we're ready, Will.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Next up is a proposed Heights Proportionate Share District. And I have from DKS, Kayla Fleskus Lane, who's going to do most of the talking today, but I'm just going to give a brief introduction. So when development comes in, it needs to have adequate public facilities to serve it. It seems pretty basic, but then there's a lot of complication when the rubber meets the road. When it comes to roadways, we've determined locally what adequate is, and it's a service level called D, which is 80 to 90% of capacity being used. So the 80 to 90% of the number of cars going into it is being used. Any development that puts additional vehicles into an intersection that's above that capacity needs to propose a proportionate share contribution. So their proportionate share towards towards an intersection improvement, or they need to actually go out and add the improvement to the intersection themselves to support their development. That's generally very expensive, creates interim improvements that don't get used, and so it's not common. The more common is to do a proportionate share towards already identified transportation system plan improvement projects. That's on the developer to propose their proportionate share, and then it's on us to review it and approve it. Those engineering costs, though, get charged to the developer. The alternative is when we have already, on behalf of the developer, created a proportionate share district and done that calculation on their behalf. We did that for Second and Oak and also for Cascade and Rand. It makes the development process quicker, faster for the developer when we have proportionate share districts in place for our failing intersections. Big River Community Land Trust approached us because they will be developing on Avalon Drive and putting vehicle trips into the Heights intersections, which are not at adequate service levels, and request our help. And we were able to get a grant to also defray the cost of doing a proportionate share calculation for the Heights. This will help Big River Community Land Trust. This will also help all future developers that may be putting trips into these intersections. And so with that introduction, I'm gonna pass it over to Kayla with DKS, who did all the analysis for us. And Kayla, do you have the ability to share your screen in the presentation, or I have it up here too?
I think I do. Are you seeing my screen here now?
You did it. Thank you. And we hear you well, Kayla.
Fantastic. Thank you, counselors, for having me today. I'm going to talk us through the Hood River Heights Proportionate Share Study. So I've got about 10 slides, and then I'll pass it back to Will for kind of next steps on this. So a little bit of background. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Heights study area, kind of bounded by 12th Street, 13th Street, May Street, and Belmont Avenue. Now, the need for traffic improvements in this area is already present or will be present very soon. So May Street and 13th Street is already exceeding those standards that Will was mentioning around capacity and level of service. Belmont Avenue and 13th Street, along with Belmont Avenue and 12th Street, are expected to be in a similar place in the next 5 to 7 years. This is generally consistent with the transportation system plan findings, which were reaffirmed in the Heights Streetscape Plan. So through the Heights Plan, there's been some traffic-related improvements that have been identified to address these issues, which include a roundabout at May Street and 13th Street, a traffic signal at Belmont Avenue and 13th Street, and a reconfiguration at Belmont Avenue and 12th Street, along with 13th Street being converted to two-way travel. So through this study, the city is really trying to seek to provide a fair and predictable fee to charge users, adding traffic to this area, resulting in a more efficient process for city and developers. So the purpose of this study is really to outline that clear and fair proportionate share methodology, which allows the city to spread the burden of these improvement costs among future developments that will contribute to vehicle growth in this area. What that really means is that putting together this proportionate share will avoid putting the full burden of funding and constructing specific improvements onto one development. It also provides an established framework for collecting these fees and avoids developers needing to recreate their own methodology for each individual developer. The way we do this is by calculating a fee per PM peak hour vehicle trip to be used for the calculations. And like Will already mentioned, the city already has proportionate share districts at Second and Oak and Cascade and Rand. So for the heights, the way that this is calculated is looking at the total cost of improvements divided by the capacity of those improvements to get that fee per PM peak hour vehicle trip. So what that equates to then is roughly $2,400 per PM peak hour vehicle trip. Two things to note, the costs that we're assuming here are truly the costs at the intersection, not any of the other streetscape costs associated with the Heights streetscape plan. So this is just for the traffic related costs. And then we've divided by the capacity, which means that this fee charged at this rate will capture about 8 to 10% of the total project costs in the next 15 to 20 years is what we are estimating. What this means is that moving forward, if this proportionate share district were to be adopted, there's two options for developers. So the first would be the developer could commission an impact study to determine their proportionate share contribution for those trips added to failed public facilities. The developer then pays for engineering review of the methodology, which could involve several iterations during that review cycle. Right now, this is the only existing option in the Heights. Or developers could use this fee that's been calculated along with some additional information that the city has resources on to look up what their fee would be, kind of bypassing the need for them to pay for their own study. So those three pieces of information that would be used to calculate a fee in the future would be the city's transportation SDC fee schedule, which has information about the amount of trips that individual developments might generate, the location of the development, looking at the transportation analysis zones in which it's located. And then the third piece of information would be the estimated percent of trips generated by the development that would travel through the Heights study area, which is something that we developed for this study. The transportation analysis zones and that proportion of trips going through this area is developed using the city's travel forecasting tool, which is consistent with the city's transportation system plan. So I've got two examples to talk through here. So the first one would be, as an example, a 25-unit single-family housing development located in a TAZ just to the west of the Heights district, slightly outside of the Heights. And so if we were to look at the number of trips that would generate based on the city's transportation SDC fee schedule, that would be 24 PM peak hour trips. And then the estimated trip distribution based on this study would be 32% of those trips would go through the Heights area, multiplied by that fee per vehicle trip to come up with a total fee of just over $18,000. In this next example, if we were to take a 3,500 square foot fast food restaurant with a drive-through located in a TAZ just to the south of the Heights, you would get a slightly different rate and fee. So that development would be expected to generate 116 PM peak hour trips with a pass-by reduction factor of 0.45, meaning that some people will already be stopping on their way, let's say home from work. So it's kind of a natural pass by. They will stop, pick up fast food. So there's a reduction factor that can get applied there. 56% of the trips in that TAZ or in that zone just to the south of the Heights would be expected to go through the Heights at that fee of just over $2,400. So the total fee for that development would be just over $70K. And that's all for my slides. I'll pass it back to Will to kind of talk through next steps, and then I can answer any questions you all may have.
Yeah, thank you, Kayla.
Thank you.
If you agree with this methodology and you want to adopt this and administer it for the Heights, we would bring back a resolution implementing it in October of 2025. And we would use the same methodology to also do a proportionate share for Cascade and Mount Adams for the Mount Adams roundabout there. And then then we might want to also consider revisiting Second and Oak and Cascade and Rand. One, because the prior proportionate share contributions were based on planning level estimates, and now they're done and we know how much they cost and how much more still needs to be collected. But also they didn't include the transportation analysis zone calculation that Kayla discussed. So in my mind, they're half-baked because we did a proportionate share methodology for the cost side of the improvements, but people still have to do their own impact study to do how many trips they're going to generate and where those trips are going to go. And we could instead default to this new transportation analysis zone where basically someone plugs in their address and it's all calculated out, in an Excel formula, exactly what their trip generation is. So much quicker, easier, and expedited. So those would be next steps.
Doug.
And just to add context here, what does it usually cost for that traffic study that they have to do that they're not going to have to do anymore?
Ooh, Kayla, as the transportation engineer, might know best.
Roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the low side, it's a couple $1,000s to do a study that would just be the transportation analysis letter if they didn't have to do a full impact assessment. The full impact assessment could be anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 pretty easily, depending on the size and scale of the development. And that does not account for the costs associated with a city engineering review of that submittal. So that cost is on the low side, I would say.
Yeah, and I'll just emphasize that's the cost to know what your cost is.
Right. And I'm assuming with that cost comes some time as well. So
Yes,
theoretically,
absolutely.
that's
Not the engineering side review to make sure that it's they have all the incentive in the world to underestimate their impact.
Thank you.
I want to understand the methodology piece around, there's continues to be a reference to $2023, like shown as $2023. And I don't understand that because we're in 2025. So how is that going to have an impact on your methodology?
Yeah. Well, we will increase for inflation every year. Cascade and Rand, Second and Oak, they're on the fee schedule and they get updated by the Engineering News Record cost index every year. I think the $2,023 is from because that's when the Heights Streetscape Plan cost estimates were made. But I think they've already been, Kayla, they've already been indexed to current. Is that correct? Or at least for a little bit?
In the study, they were still referencing the 2023 costs from the Streetscape Plan. So those would need to be scaled using those same Engineering News Record factors that Will mentioned.
Yeah, so we could do a scaling for a couple of years, but then that's how they would live on going forward.
Why didn't we use TAZ earlier?
That was before my time. I don't have
We didn't
insight
have
into
you.
that.
Okay. Any other questions? Will, is this a good methodology?
I love it.
That's the spirit. Okay. Thank you, Kayla, for being our person. What's the step here? Do we vote?
Sure. Yeah, you can direct staff to return. I believe there may be a suggested.
Go ahead, Doug.
I move to direct staff to return with a resolution establishing a Heights District Proportionate Share District based on the DKS Heights District Proportionate Share Study reviewed tonight.
Moved by Stupino,
I'll second.
second by Rivera. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes. And thank you to Big River for being here tonight and for the work you're doing. Yeah, Ben?
Councilor
I
Cavalier.
know, I'm sorry, did I thought I gave you a hint there.
abstained because I represent the Big River Community Land Trust and
Thank-
benefit from this.
Thank you, I
so-
appreciate that. And I abstained, thank you. Sorry, I should have, I don't know, something should have. Okay. Moving on.
Okay, my third and last one for tonight. Okay, so another one of the critical projects in the city council's work plan is doing another affordable or mixed income housing development. It's been given the shorthand Mariposa Village 2.0, which may be nothing like Mariposa Village. So we're really in the exploratory stages. So step one has two components. One is looking at alternatives to low income housing tax credit funded projects, which is what Mariposa Village is. What are other public agencies doing to support affordable housing? So we'll have a white paper on that to you in October. But the other part that we're going to talk about tonight is looking at what are all of our currently publicly owned properties in the city. Before we start looking at acquiring others, let's just take a cursory look at what we already own to see if it could house housing itself or could generate money to support housing. And my example for that is you probably remember us surplusing 2 parcels up on Sherman last year. Those brought in almost $500,000 that went into the Affordable Housing Reserve Fund. It's been very helpful with the Mariposa Village project, and we have most of it still available to plug into our next project. So either housing itself or creating revenue for housing. So tonight I have several publicly owned properties to review with you. And Mayor, I'll sort of take a cue from you. Just tell me speed up, slow down. We could be here for hours. There are multiple, yeah, hundreds of pages worth of environmental site assessments have been done on these now. And I've done quite a bit of historical research as well. So I'll just take them as they come and try to be quick, but also leave time for questions. So, and all these are in your packet as well. If this is hard to see. So this is the Sherman Avenue between Sherman and State. We picked this up in the mid-1980s for the parking lot. It's always been a parking lot. We improved it in the 1980s. We improved it some more in 2012. I can't see that there was ever any need or interest in the southern 2/3 of the property. But I do know that about a year or two after we bought it, we did shave off some of the eastern side and sold that off. So it appears that in the past, we've sold off portions of this that weren't directly related to the parking lot. So potential utilization of this is partition and sell the lower 2/3. It's complicated somewhat by one of the houses adjoining has ingress egress in order to park at their house through it. And so they have a license to do that from the city. So we need to work around that if we sold it. We could also do like a public-private partnership to jointly develop it, kind of like we did with Mariposa Village, where then we could work to try to accommodate the neighbor through that process as well. So I'll, for respect to time, I'll stop there and see if we want to move on or ask questions about this one.
Class.
Thanks, Will. Just for all of these, I guess, do we understand or have more information about the infrastructure needs and just the guesstimates around cost for each of these locations? Because I didn't see that on here.
Yeah, some of the later ones, I specifically note if they are not served by utilities. This one is well served by utilities.
Thanks. And if you feel free, we can come back and make a note or whatever. So let's go to the next one.
Yeah, next is our Columbia lot. So we purchased the western parcel. The eastern parcel was sold to us based on a promise to build a parking garage on it someday by the Port of Hood River. So whatever we do with that, we'd have to honor that commitment or talk to the Port of Hood River about eliminating that requirement. This one has started, was first a orchard, but it's been a packing house, lumber yard, any number of things. It's burned down twice. So there could be a lot of soil contamination that needs to be remediated on it. I should note the phase 1 environmental site assessments that we've done were paid for by a grant from MCED. MCED will also pay to do a phase 2 on this, which is actually soil sampling if we want to move forward. This one would probably, I mean, we can't sell it off because we promised to build a parking garage on it. Plus also parking is an absolute need based on our 2019 parking study. We need more parking, not less. So if we were to utilize it, it would probably be through a public-private partnership where we put it out to bid and see who can build housing on it while also increasing public parking, meeting affordability standards, kind of who can do the best out there. We may want to, if we chose to go down that path, may want to include the Cascade parking lot as well, because it would just provide more options for a developer to make something pencil. Councilor Rivera?
So thanks for that. In both of these examples, you've mentioned public-private partnerships. Tillamook County has a couple examples of, working, the hospital working with Hayden Homes and I-Sector, I believe. Have any of those options been explored, at least for these two, in most recent conversations? Or is that something that I think I recall we did some work a couple of years ago around that?
Yeah, well, our Mariposa Village is also a public-private partnership. And we're going to bring a white paper in different models in that vein. But to kind of the most cut and dry is just putting out just stating what our goals are and putting out an RFP to allow developers to respond. I've talked to Cascadia Partners just sort of briefly, and they estimated probably like a $50,000 to $150,000 budget for that effort. But that's something that if I get feedback from the council tonight, like something we would create a development plan or sales plan, or we would figure all that out. But I just want to make sure it's kind of just a pulse check tonight.
Next.
This is over a parcel we own off of West Cliff Drive, north of I-84. Probably at one point part of Morrison Park, which I believe was the Jamar Mill, was the origin of kind of where all that was before I-84 came in. Served by water, but not sewer. So those single family homes along the cliff overlooking the Columbia River are on city water, but sewer does not extend over there. So may need to be septic. Unless, or maybe some developer might want to pay to bring sewer out. Has never been developed, has never been touched, so no environmental concerns. This one would probably be best to work with a land trust and see if just a land trust would take it on and build however many units can be built there, probably the low densities they would need to be. I think that could help us too with, we would probably want to send this out to public vote. Not anything that anyone recreates in, but being associated with Morrison Park and our charter amendment, we're just on very safe ground if we did a voter a ballot advisory vote to allow us to have this to not be, even if it's not parked today, assuming it was parked, allowing us to do something else with it. It's pretty flat. It's kind of undulating, but pretty buildable.
Right. Quick question about this one. This one is in the county, not the city.
Correct.
So if it is developed, it would have to be annexed.
Not if it wasn't attached to sewer.
But if it's developed,
I think if it could get approved for a septic system, it wouldn't fall under our resolution, but I can research that further.
if somebody's in the urban growth boundary and they want to develop their property, what we require people to hook up to city sewer, sign waivers of remonstrance, generally get annexed into the city as a standard practice. So that's just an issue I'd like to flag with that particular property.
Thank you, Counselor. Zoom can hear you, this microphone, but the Oregon administrative rules have around sewer and include whether it is physically and legally available within 300 feet. Or there's another population if there's multi-unit housing. So in this case, we would have to do an analysis like, yes, it's probably legally available. Is it physically available depending on topography? Major freeway may be seen as a physical barrier, underneath. But just to say that more analysis would need to be done on the question.
Sure. And then one other issue, I'm just pointing out for council in consideration of this one, if it is developed and if it is annexed, then potentially it may leave an island of the rest of Westcliff in between this property and exit 63. So the rest of Westcliff in between there and the rest would need to come in because we can't legally leave an island. Just something to think about. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Council. Next up is we own a large parcel out by the historic highway trailhead. This was appeared to be a gravel pit, but for many decades, municipal dump. I'm not exactly sure to what extent, but I found references in like the 1980s to being called the city dump parcel. So after looking at it, I think this one can be ruled out that there's no profitable use. It's in the National Scenic Area of public recreation, so maybe the most intense use could be a campground, which would never create enough revenue to handle the amount of remediation it might need. So wanted to include it because it's a big publicly owned parcel, but I think under the lens of supporting housing, can probably be ruled out.
Thanks.
The next two are not city owned. I've been working this with the Urban Renewal Advisory Committee, and they really wanted to include all publicly owned parcels, regardless of ownership. So that's what these next two are. And I think they're important, so I kept them in, but I don't have any next steps with them because we don't control them. This is the county-owned parcel, surrounded by private property, has no access to roads. But the Urban Renewal Agency could stand ready to support and facilitate a development agreement, potentially with neighboring privately owned parcels. Use this maybe as park, road, if it could be paired with development that also created, new tax increment, something like that. But as of right now, it's kind of an island. It's owned by the county.
Thanks.
And then the school district property as well. This one is very large, very buildable, but is being held for a potential future school of unknown grade level and unknown size. 17.5 acres, which significantly, is many times larger than all existing schools. And also at the crossroads of many of our very important transportation system plan identified roadways. So in many ways, it is a bit of a keystone to the development of the west side. But the district is not ready to pursue kind of additional planning on it. They did engage Klein and Associates, who did a preliminary test fit, which they believe does not indicate it has much additional land. I don't know if I agree with that. But it's to no effect because it's not ours.
Thank you. Anna.
Okay, I know this is a little bit of a groaner, but one parcel of property that the city owns and the county owns that is not on this list is the maintenance yard. And I know everybody's gonna say, don't even bring it up, but that is a prime location. I still don't understand why we haven't collaborated with the county to see, and I know it's a huge move, but that is just such a great location. I don't understand why we have our maintenance. And I'm sorry, Adam. If we had the opportunity to build an even better place for you guys and have just a better location, I just still think that that is a parcel that my dream for that place would be an amazing rec center and affordable housing. We could do both right there. But I'm sorry, Adam.
Abigail, okay, yeah. So I don't have a reason to. I know it's had a phase 1 environmental assessment and very challenging with all the intense sort of chemical use on the property. I know that challenge is in place. And also that we don't have an identified location to move anyone to.
Well, I was just gonna, like, can you speak a little bit more to that? I know we have some background information, maybe moving forward that might be beneficial for folks to just have so that we're all on the same page around some of the findings there.
Yeah, the county utilized the same MCED grant that we did to do a phase 1 environmental assessment. So they've kind of taken the same first step that we have. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Just comment that the county has looked at, I'd say the county is looking to relocate their administrative services and courthouse, and I think they have thought about that area. The public works yard as a potential place for that. I don't know that they've thought about it, or that we have really started to about it for housing. But they definitely need to replace the courthouse and complete their administrative building, so they thought about that. The county has some land in a valley that they could relocate their public works that maybe needs to be more centrally located. My own take would be, I would like to keep city public works in the city, and so finding a relocation for us would be challenging. But we have not studied the issue as to where could we relocate that, and if you're looking at bond costs, you have heard me say that I believe our public works building and outbuildings are at end of life, so we can certainly investigate that.
I think you've given us some good options here of other places in the city that might be good for, I don't know, just shuffling things around.
Thank you.
Thanks. Just nothing additional. Just looking for answered questions and bring this information to you.
Thanks, Will. Any other questions or comments for Will on this topic, Gladys?
But my understand, so thank you, Will. Thanks for all of that. My understanding though is that next steps that we'll be talking about just like costs associated to some of these lots and whatnot.
Yeah. Yes, in the future, I can bring like surplus, estimates of revenue that we could achieve, and also development approaches in the future.
Now, the way we did Mariposa 1.0 is we bought some land. So, I mean, just to say this out loud, like sell some of these and buy something out there.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Tonight is just keep looking or stop. You could tell me tonight, I guess one decision could be abandon this effort and focus on nothing but acquiring new property. But if I'm not hearing that, I think we're good.
All right. Thanks, everybody. City manager comments. Committee reports, Anna.
Nothing from me.
Nothing from me.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to join the county commissioners meeting where Scott Lazenby, right, presented the PSU annexation findings. The county commissioners had asked, like, are we going to meet again? What are the next steps? Based off of our conversation, we didn't necessarily give staff clear direction around what are next steps, how intentional do we want to be. So something for us to consider, and how do we want to move forward with that information. Scott did mention that there are students that could help with additional costs and infrastructure pieces that would be needed. There were also the specific deeds that I cannot recall what they were called. The permits, annexation, something, I can't remember. No, there was something else, like public records that we couldn't, anyway, something along those lines. And I guess I'll have to go back and look at the footage that we had asked staff, like, how do we truly understand if some of these properties had annexation agreements in the past? So something for us to consider annexation is a tool for affordable housing. So I think something for us to all to think about and how we want to move forward with that, if we want to move forward with that.
Thank you, Gladys. Doug?
As I mentioned earlier, I was unable to attend the Visit Hood River meeting because I wasn't made aware of it until the day before, but I will be at the next one. But luckily, we just heard from Katie, so that's my update.
Thanks. Grant?
No committees.
Amanda?
Energy Council met last week and I was on Zoom, which made it very difficult to hear. Hope we can address that in the future, but
Oof.
so I asked Haley to kind of help me out with the summary. We are delaying the work planning that they were trying to get done by the end of the year. So they're kind of putting a pause on that until we get a grant that we're supposed to get. So that's kind of not moving forward, but I guess the other thing was, in the meantime, to form an energy coalition with interested community members and nonprofits. The goal would be to highlight energy savings around the community and educate community members on projects they could complete within their homes and businesses, which is good. And I have my first MCHED meeting next week, I believe. So next meeting, I'll report on that.
Great, thanks. Couple things I've got going on. There's going to be a totem pole passing through town next week. No, this week next week on the 15th. And I'm going to MC and sing some songs and greet the folks who are passing through. That seems like a fun opportunity to engage with our neighbors. Also, I've been biking by the beautiful house that the Big Rivers, I mean, I'm sure it's not finished, but it's like 2 stories and dried out and stuff. So good job up there on the Windmaster area. And I'm so excited that that project is moving along. Congratulations. And then we just got some great news at the Housing Authority that one of the final pieces came into place for the about 50 units of housing right next to Home Depot. It's called the Chenoweth Project. And that's really moving ahead. It's, you know, it's sort of like Mariposa Village, lots of parts are needed, but one of the last parts just clicked into place last week. So to the extent it's a single gorge economy and community, that's going to be a bunch of really, really useful housing units out there in the western edge of the Dalles. Council comments. Amanda?
I guess I just have a question for staff regarding the people who came and spoke about the pipe issue and contractor license. And is there any action that we're taking on our part to address that? Or is this new information, or where are we at with that?
We are aware of the issue, Counselor. Sorry, this is I can't hear the microphone from the staff table, but it is an issue we're aware of. I think you've been contacted as well by the builder itself. So nothing new. We're aware of it.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Dustin.
Okay, that'd be great, I think.
Anything else, Amanda? Grant?
Oh, got so much going on. Thanks. Tonight we heard about TASMath, transportation areas. Yeah, I know, right? So yeah, it's a thing, and it's why we talked a lot about affordable housing, and that's where it's goal 1 on our goals. But that's TASMath is that how we build our transportation networks and our communities. This is why this stuff matters, and how we can more effectively build communities that can address affordable housing. It's one of the components, in my estimation, that we should tackle, and I think this is a great step to help do that. The methodology and the ability for developers or whoever just to go in and click buttons and have that already there and ready to go, world of sense, and yay, great. So hopefully we can do some more of that. That's it for now. Yeah.
Doug?
That's all I really want to comment on. Thanks.
Just wanted to start by saying I agree with what Amanda was saying, and what Dustin had said. I'm fully aware of it. Let's just keep on top of it. It's rare that we get three people that come with gripes like that. They seem to be coming in good faith, so I think we should make sure that's going well. Second thing I wanted to bring up, so in the not too distant past, there was an incident here where ICE was in the neighborhood. And this is a conversation that Gladys and I have been having, sort of how does the city of Hood River respond when that happens in the community? I think it's beneficial for us to work with the Hood River Police Department to really understand a clear path directive for them about how to communicate after an incident. I know there's some legal implications there. You can't talk about a active investigation, but for example, I saw the post from the city of Corvallis on their social media recently. There was an incident at this location at this time. The city of Corvallis Police Department did not assist in aiding, with the activities for ICE. It's a burden I know that has to be taken on, but it's one of those things where at this point, I'm speaking to individuals in our community that are not leaving their home without their passports. So I know we heard earlier, don't get political and whatnot, and I don't usually want to get super political when it comes to what's happening with the federal government, but I think it only benefits our trust in our police department that's not, working based on state sanctuary status, not working with ICE, to reiterate that when there's a notice that comes out about an activity in an expeditious manner. I think there's also a public hysteria that happens, being that there's federal activity. It might not even be ICE, but you'll see on social media, you'll hear in the streets that people are terrified to go outside. I want to minimize that. I want to build trust with our local police department. I think they're doing a good job when it comes to this kind of stuff. I think that only can help. And, there's not a whole lot that we can do when there's unarmed cars coming from the federal government to round up people and, without due process, send them to another country. I think it's horrible what's happening. But I think at least what we can do is inform the public about what happened, what our role wasn't. I know, that's not something we usually should have to do, but I think it would minimize public hysteria and reaffirm our police department's commitment to adhering to the state status on sanctuary. So I'm not really sure what that looks like yet. Definitely would require conversations with Chief Holste and Dan and staff, but I think it's worth our time to do that, and it's worth our time to do that as soon as we can.
I think you've really hit on it. I love that highlighting what our role wasn't. Like, it's easy to say, oh, it goes without saying. Well, let's say it again. Something happened at Safeway. As always, our officers did not assist ICE. Gladys.
Yeah, thank you, Doug, for starting this conversation. I also agree that we are at a point where we're being forced to discuss these matters, given that today the Supreme Court gave temporary access to ICE and the power to stop people based off of race, language, or where they work. This is racial profiling, and this has now been sanctioned by the highest court in the land, which means that this will continue happening. We have folks at a federal level that are saying, hey, we're coming after sanctuary cities, we're coming after sanctuary states. And we've also seen examples within our own state of police departments actively working with ICE. So if our community members are seeing examples of that elsewhere, I think what happened a couple weeks ago was a great example of misinformation, not having clear communication, I believe makes us complicit, and the trauma that this brings. Like, I remember being a kiddo and folks saying ICE is at Safeway, don't go to Safeway, and how terrified we all are. And this is something that is still impacting, you know, myself personally, my family members, that they don't know what to believe and they don't know when it's safe to go out. And we have resolutions as tools to help guide us, that we will continue learning and that we will continue showing up in action, and that we have to, this is an area where I believe we can do better. And so I agree. How do we have this conversation, all of us together, and what is a clear directive that we are giving? Because that's our job, right? We're policymakers, and we need to be really clear about what we wish to see, because our constituents need that, and that is definitely within our wheel of responsibilities as elected officials.
Totally agree.
Ben?
Yeah, you know, there's a saying that all politics is local, and there's a lot of truth to that. I can understand the desire to be politically neutral about things when the national dialogue is so polarized and toxic. However, when we have a national level policy issues that are affecting a huge portion of our community, it behooves us to take a stance on that. You know, when something is affecting our community, like we need to say something about that and have a policy about that. Doesn't mean we have to have a hot take on anything that, you know, nothing that is particularly relevant and waste a lot of oxygen on stuff that doesn't directly affect us or doesn't impact us at a level that warrants it. But what we're talking about tonight is an example of something that we do need to have policy about, and we do need to discuss. So, yeah. I didn't have anything else other than that. Just wanted to thank Will for your work on all those properties. I find just generally like the history of and ownership of any parcel really in the city just really fascinating, and things have gone through so many different uses over the years. Like I find that stuff really fascinating. I could have talked to you all night about it, but it's not going to subject others to that. But I appreciate the work and the digging that probably took. So thank you.
Gladys wanted a redo, a do extra.
Yeah, I had another comment separate to this conversation around ICE and the messaging there. For some of you who couldn't hear the audio, there was a situation that happened earlier today with a community member who felt frustrated that he was not being heard, and maybe feeling that he wasn't getting the response that he needed. And I also know that this individual has caused safety concerns for staff. And so today that, you know, a situation like that happened, and there are elected officials across the country that, I mean, some folks have been killed because of these positions. And so I think safety is something that we should be taking serious, and safety of ourselves, safety of our council chambers. I was talking to another counselor earlier, and for example, the courthouse has a metal detector and whatnot to go through. And so I think that we are at the point where this issue has escalated with this individual, and that we should be having safety conversations for these meetings, because that situation could have escalated to something far worse. And so I think it's important that we discuss that and have clear action items to ensure our safety to do our work.
Thank you, Gladys. So I'm going to take a half a pause here. I think there's three issues that I want to get your sense of. We received a declaration of institutional neutrality presentation that I've had a lot of conversations with this gentleman. And I think fair to say this is about like the Middle East. So this is, that's our question. I've heard three of us speak passionately about the national anti-immigrant activity. That's kind of a different one, in my opinion. And the third is this safety one. I have not had obscenity screamed in my face before. That was an exciting moment for me. So do y'all want us to calendar each of, or put on the agenda any of those three? How about institutional neutrality for clearly like international politics things? Do you guys want to discuss that in a future meeting?
Well, I guess I have a comment about that one. We've already spoken about this matter, and we have a resolution that's built around this. So while I appreciate this individual's time to draft this, we already have a tool for that. So I don't think it would be a good use of our time to bring it back up.
Right, others?
I'm just curious, what that which resolution was the one that addresses this specifically? Because I agree that, that this is about, I mean, it seems this is about more international kinds of things, but it does say that, you know, our purview is infrastructure, public safety, and community services. And what you're talking about with what's happened at Safeway and what's happening, that's public safety. That is our community. That is a direct bearing on that. So I kind of thought this was a nice, I mean, I see the pragmatic reasoning behind why we would have something like this. And I thought it wasn't a bad idea, but if you said we already have something?
We have our equity resolution and the resolution that we just passed, like what, 2-3 months ago? I can't recall it off the top of my head.
I don't see that as being the same as this. So I think my thought would be, let's definitely talk about it. But I do think we have taken steps to say these things are important to us. That, you know, but I think this is kind of a clarifying, it's different than what we've already passed, unless there's something that predates me that I'm not aware of.
I look at this as a limiter on what we would discuss. I do not see this in any way as indicating that we want to state a position on brutal immigration policy. This is like, don't chime in on Ethiopia. This is, let's chime in on ICE. And then the other is like a safety zone or a bulletproof glass or something. Doug, and then Amanda.
Well, it does say national in here. I know we're not adopting this exactly or considering adopting it. I mean, I think that declaration of institutional neutrality to me seems like you said, Mayor, limiting. I think that the people that are elected to this position should decide when something that comes up is related to something in the community or public safety, as it says in here. I think that's a subjective thing. I also want community members to be able to come to us and speak their mind. If there's something that, you know, we can or cannot do something about, I think we should at least hear them out and just say, well, we're neutral, you know. So I'm not in favor of this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amanda, and then
Go ahead, sorry.
Amanda?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, as Gladys said, we've discussed this recently. And I feel like we got to a good place with it. And I also agree it's limiting, and I don't think that we need to really focus on that. I am interested in having future conversations about messaging our responsibility.
I want to understand.
That's the number two.
Messaging about,
Like ICE and
about like ICE. Great, thank you. Man, I cut you off.
Yeah, whatever.
So I'm going to move ahead on having some sort of a topic about the sort of our national immigration policy. I'm not going to move ahead on having an item to talk about sort of international politics. This safety one is very serious. Do you want me to work with staff to kind of, I don't know, like put like a little warning track, like please don't step, like, I don't know, like there's any, I'm sure the chief could tell me lots of things we could do. I don't want to have a metal detector, but Amanda.
I feel like I don't have all the information about this. I kind of know what we're referencing, but I don't really know details. And so I would like to be filled in on that. And I also really enjoy, and it is a luxury, but that we don't have metal detectors, that there isn't a plate in front of our, like whatever. I really like we live in a small town and 99.9% of the people can be trusted. And I really don't want to like go overboard with safety. Safety is important, but I don't want to have like a fear reaction or a weird, I don't know.
Others on this, Gladys?
I think we should have a discussion about it because, I've been on council for 5 years. This isn't something that I talk about all the time, but, early in my councilship, I had some pretty scary emails that came through that made me feel really unsafe. And having that situation in my face didn't make me feel very good either. I'm not saying let's have metal detectors, let's have police, I'm not saying that, but how do we ensure that we're safe as well? Because I've had that experience more than once, and that's also not okay.
Open to discussion about it.
Doug?
Yeah, I mean, this particular individual I've felt personally threatened by in public before. And yeah, it's like, bad apple, one bad apple kind of thing. But like, we live in a society with people where people have access to weapons. We live in a society where there's rampant disinformation everywhere about what's happening. The amount of conspiracy theories that I hear about what happens in places like this, where all of us that work up here every day, we couldn't even believe that anybody could even think that. But it charges people up, and I don't have an answer for it. I just know that it's serious, and I felt threatened as well. And again, like, are metal detectors the answer? I don't know. But like, I do know in that moment, I was like, where's Chief Holste? Oh my gosh, is how I was feeling. And, thank you for being up here. When the police are here, I do feel safer in those situations, but I didn't necessarily feel like that before, people started showing up here and kind of acting aggressively. I do remember instances during, the short-term rental debates and things like that, where, insults were hurled and people called bad names and that kind of stuff, but never like the sort of like coming up to, directly into us and screaming in our faces kind of stuff, where like physically you're feeling threatened. And I have, in this instance, and, I don't know what to do about it.
Just piggybacking on that comment, we understand that we sign up for this role and that we're going to have folks that agree with us and we're going to have folks that disagree. And it is okay for you to state your disagreement, in an email, say that verbally, but to have somebody come physically into your space, that's not okay. That is not what we have signed up for to do in this role, to have our safety be threatened. So I just want to make that really clear. I understand I might not be people's favorite based off of my decisions. That's okay. It's one thing to say it. It's another thing to like physically act upon that. And that behavior should not be condoned at all.
I just want to say that I think it's an opportunity to promote civil discourse and encourage people to, part of the democratic process is access to your electeds and access to your public spaces, and that's this place. I do think that our staff should always feel safe here, and I feel like, we should as well, but I also think, clearly this is someone who's frustrated and is not expressing that frustration in a way that is comfortable for us. But maybe, we also maybe, I think we all have a little empathy for, we don't know what's happening in everybody's lives and stuff. So in fairness to everyone, I think, again, the point is, we need to be accessible, and we did sign up for this, and I'm not justifying what occurred, but I just want to say that yeah, we're still available to receive public feedback, whether we like it or not. But I also like to be safe.
So I've heard enough that I'm going to talk to Abigail and make this a topic on an agenda soon. Abigail.
Yes, thank you. And I just moved up here because the microphone
Yep.
over there is not working. Just comment that the city attorney and I are we are happy to talk about what options might be. We might want to make some decisions, the mayor, myself, and the city attorney before the next meeting so that we can have a policy in place and make any changes that might be needed. So I will keep you all informed, but I'm hearing the urgency and we will be talking about it soon.
Doug?
And I know that this individual's been exhibiting threatening behavior during office hours at the city as well. What's the current status on that?
Right, so as you have all seen, we issued a letter saying not to come to City Hall to discuss that particular topic. If there's another issue or concern, may come, but needs to follow behavior rules. So I think has come at times, I think has left fairly quickly. I can, can look at more of this and give you all a bit of a summary later, but so we have addressed the talking about some of the repeated issues with staff at City Hall. However, we did not specifically not talk about council meetings because we want to make sure that people have access to their elected officials. Now with that, I think we have some options. You can always attend remotely. We have different ways that people can reach you that is not here in person. So I'll talk to the city attorney and our police chief and we can figure some things out.
Thanks. Now, I interrupted the flow. I think we heard council comment from Ben. Did you get a chance to finish your council comment before I hijacked this into a different discussion?
Who knows?
Anna,
I'm
Anna
good.
did not, I know.
I appreciate the conversation that we just had. I think we covered a lot of good topics. The only other item I wanted to bring up is that yesterday, the Parks District hosted a pool concept workshop. And I think it impacts our community as to the work that the Parks and Rec District is doing to try to help rebuild our pool. Because we don't, I feel like we've heard this a lot of times, but we don't need another incident where like the library was closed down because we weren't proactive. So I just want to acknowledge the work that Parks and Rec is doing. And, if you have an opportunity to participate in their outreach right now, do it. They have a survey, I think, online. And this is important stuff for our community.
Thank you, Anna. With that, I think we are at executive session. I'm going to read the script. Oh, I don't see a script. I'm sure I have a script. There's always a script. I don't think there's a script. Thank you. The new shorty or the regular one? Yep.
And Mayor, if I may, just, do you feel like you have clear direction on the third topic of communication with federal law enforcement agencies?
I think we have, that we're putting that on. Yes.
Okay.
I think we're going to bring that. So in that framework that I had, we're not going to talk about institutional neutrality. We are going to talk about federal immigration. We are going to talk about counselor safety.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug, for clarifying. The council will now meet in executive session pursuant to RS 192.662E to conduct deliberations with persons you have designated to negotiate real property transactions. ORS 192.6602H to consult with your attorney regarding your legal rights and duties in regard to current litigation or litigation that is more likely than not to be filed. Representatives of the news media, thank you for coming, Tricia, and designated staff are allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room and we will end the public broadcast. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made nor final action taken in executive session. The executive session is anticipated to last 40 minutes. At the end of the executive session, the council meeting will be adjourned and no action will be taken. We will now discontinue the live feed and